Ladies and gentlemen, Pronogo is here to bring you some more Cosmonarchy casts. You may notice there is no green screen. That's right, we're raw dogging it, baby. I was going to make up a story about how well I'm moving soon, and so I needed to pack it away. I didn't need to pack it away that soon, but it fell, and command strips are not very good at holding things after the sticky wears off. So, it lasted since November. I guess I should count my lucky stars. Oh, let me turn on the other light, though. Maybe that'll at least improve things, friend. I am in heaven. Oh! So, I hope you guys are having a good time, a good day. And it is going to be an eye-blindingly bright show, apparently. Let's see if I can adjust some camera settings while we chat a little bit, give people time to figure things out. There you go. That's a little bit less ridiculous. I did kind of like that, though. I thought there was something about that. So we're going to be casting some Tribunal games today. We're going to finish off the Tribunal. We got 3 best of 5s left, 2 semifinals and a grand final. We're going to see who qualifies directly to the Acropolis Battlement stages. We've already got a bunch of names returning from our first camp, our previous batch of them, but also returning from Acropolis 3's top 4. Of course, Hit 'em Up the Champ, Aud, runners-up, Krankendow, and Hamster. Hamster was 3rd place, Krankendow 4th. Very cool stuff to see there. And then now, here we are, 4 tribunals already in the bin. Nebline qualifying from the 4th one that just passed not long ago. And then, who else did we have? We had Newt, Oya, and Zeke in reverse order. So there you have it. Really looking forward to seeing who ends up joining them. We've got 4 names to pick from a hat here. Arbuz, Hanmano, Art of Turtle, Cannoli. So perhaps some Zerg dominance could come out because Arbuz is half Zerg and we only have a Terran otherwise, and so it's just Zergs all the way through, it seems. But I'm sure Arbuz is going to be Protoss at least a little bit here, at least a little bit. Especially if it makes it past Hanmano, who he is favored against. So I think that's it. I think we're ready to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tribunal number 5 of Acropolis number 4. Our numbers are coalescing. We need to get to that 6th tribunal, but first we need to get a 5th player qualified through these early brackets. These single elimination best of 5 tournaments will continue until our player count improves. So let's take a look at how we got here, because we are jumping into the semi-finals, and we will be casting the grand final in the same little bit of stream, but of course they get released as individual videos, so welcome YouTube VOD viewers. Arbuz Budesh is going to be taking on Hanmano in today's game, and then after that we will have the semi-finals. Number 2, Art of Turtle versus Cannoli. Zerg versus Zerg guaranteed. If Arbuz makes it past Hanmano, who, that would definitely be the favored outcome here in terms of the odds, the bookies, whatever you want to call them. The prediction is that Arbuz will make it past, and that he is half Zerg, remember. He says random, but he's Protoss and Zerg. 50-50 split there. I will probably start adding that to these little brackets, because selective random is a fairly newfangled creation. I think it's only a few months old tops. So just to remind everybody, we're making advancements and strides all the time. It doesn't happen to affect our broadcast. In fact, we kind of regressed a little bit because my green screen has decided to fall. Olympus has fallen. Yeah, our green screen has too. But that's okay. That's okay, because I'm moving anyway. So it had to happen. Let's get in to our first match here. It's going to be a good one because it's on Corrosion. This one is Arbuz Budesh taking on Hanmano. GLHFs exchanged. And I do believe this is Smarty Cakes adminning as well. He needs to throw his own GLHF in there. Hanmano, dark green Terran in the top left. Arbuz Budesh, he is our Palatinate Purple. Indeed, Palatinate Purple Protoss. You don't need luck. Well, what do you mean? Now that you said that, we're going to desync every game. You fraud Booz Budesh. Arbuz Fraudesh. Well, he's Protoss, so I suppose that's pretty fraudulent. He's going to be going for a Gateway. He's already banked up in a Vespene for either a Lattice or a Drakodon. I guess it'll probably be the Drak, but curious that he ended up getting a little bit of Vespene in the early game. I wonder if he had to just sort of think about what he was going to do and then decided, actually, I don't want to open Lattice here. I'll keep an eye out on that as time goes on. Hanmano going for a Stockade. So Hanmano's a pretty tricky player. We've noticed this in general. He had a bit of a hard fought victory against Godwheat earlier in the bracket. It was a 3-2 finish. Meanwhile, Arbuz had perhaps an easier opponent, it should be said, in the form of Grass Eater in the quarterfinals here. To start things off, he 3-0'd and didn't really particularly look like he had too much of a challenge. There's some games that I think Grass Eater did better than maybe it looked on the tin, because it ends up looking one-sided sometimes when you only make one mistake from a precarious position. That's because Grass Eater likes to play a precarious style, to be fair. But enough about him now. He'll have to try again in Tribunal 6, which I'm sure we will see him in action at. 3 Stockades for Hanmano. Hanmano like to open up a different build order every game versus Godwheat's Ascozi, and it kind of cost him sometimes. He would get a little too fancy, and he would end up dying to silly chantry antics. Now, in this round against Arbuz, I don't think he can afford such mistakes. Arbuz's Protoss versus Terran has been tested against the likes of Newt and Shopkeeper Dog, and he does end up posting, reasonable win rates. He's definitely a better, Zerg player by results, but I would say he definitely has a lot of instincts that align with the Protoss arsenal, just because he's played Protoss for longer. So I think that's worth pointing out here as he's going Hierophant Opener into Double Drac. I have a feeling he's going to try to get in the face of Hanmano, expecting Vultures, because that's what most Terrans open with. But since it's going to be a Cyprian mass, I have no idea how the math actually stacks up. I say that, actually, maybe I was just stalling for time, because I do have some idea, as Arbuz is thinking about dropping a Nexus here, and indeed will do so, has the money for it, at least. There it is. When you get enough Cyprians, actually Hit 'em Up was the one to show us this versus Ayud's Protoss back in one of the weekend wages of ages past, of months gone, that Hurakan Cyprian can be pretty damn good. Now, what you want to do versus the Cyprian is kind of like what you want to do versus the Lakizalis, the Lurker equivalent of Cosmonarchy Zerg. And to say more, I will tell you that you really kind of want to spread their fire out there. Cooldown is a little bit too high on the attack to regularly put out damage and account for the constant spread. So if you can get a really good surround and kind of async some of their shots, they won't be able to focus all of their DPS into one angle. And remember also that, of course, Cyprians cannot penetrate things like the Zealot or the Draconin unless the armor rend has been applied, but that's what the Hurakan is for. And it is indeed charging very far afield from everybody else, now kind of regrouping a little bit as this Zealot looks like it's moving up and around the army to send it off towards 12 o'clock, maybe run in after. No scouting information here for Arbuz, so this could be a pretty scary timing for Hanmano to just rock up. It's a little cheesy, because if the Protoss does end up scouting it or blind build something good against it, I think you can get a lot done versus this Terran army, and then there's not really much of a follow-up. The Zealot will announce the Cyprian count a little bit here, but as this is happening, it's the same timing as Hanmano charging forward, and he shreds the Hierophant immediately. I didn't even get a chance to really talk about what the Hierophant was looking to do in that fight, because it died so fast, and it's a really big pickup for Hanmano, who is definitely favored in the fight, but he needs to clear this Nexus, or he needs to commit to an attack. The Zealot is still kind of heckling units in the off the rally, but we are going to see more Hurakans come on down, and this is great play from Arbuz, just falling back here, letting the Scribes tank up some of that damage. And again, this Nexus absorbing so much power of the Cyprians so that you don't end up getting any shots onto those Draconins. And now they've hit a critical mass of ranged Striders for the Protoss side that I do not think that the Bio Army is going to be able to get it done here. It doesn't mean that Hanmano is dead in the water. He did do some economic damage. He slowed down the development of this Nexus, but he has no ministry of his own for that expansion. He's just got the 3 Stockade production. And it looks like he did clean up the Zealot in the meanwhile, but we've got a Witness out, we've got a Grand Library coming up, which is going to be used for probably a Storm Drop, knowing Arbuz, but in general, if you get a Cantavis out, you're going to be sitting pretty versus Bio, particularly the slow-moving Bio of the Cyprians. Now, does he want to get crafty with... I don't know if he knows about the little Cyprian tricks you can do. He's actually got a Lodestone coming up for detection, but it just finishes a little bit too late. If you shoot your own, units and they're in between the Witness and, like the Witness in between the unit and the Cyprian, it will actually do splash damage. It's kind of like using a siege tank to blow up a Kabbalah, a Dark Templar. I'm sorry, I'm using the Cosmonarchy words, but you think about TVP StarCraft 1, you can use siege tank splash to like shoot a SCV or whatever and blow up a Dark Templar. That's the kind of thing that you can do with Cyprians as well. So with this in mind, we have a pretty big Hurakan army. as well as the Cyprians. We have the very late expansion coming up for our Terran player. And artisans are already starting to garrison 6 o'clock. They haven't actually started colonizing it by way of harvesting, but they are there ready for the order. And Arbuz has gotten his legs underneath him. He has that 8-worker advantage, and of course it's going to grow longer the game goes on. It will indeed be a bigger and bigger advantage. Now, I think it's worth pointing out that there's no tech development here whatsoever, and I'm kind of curious about the lodestone choice for Hanmano. I don't know if he was expecting Kabbalist. Maybe he saw the flicker, the shimmer of the Witness and thought it might have been a cloaked ground unit. Not entirely sure. He's going to charge in anyway, and this fight is going to be pretty disadvantaged for him. It feels like all the Hurricanes on one side, not exactly what you want. You want them spread out a little bit so that they can rend the armor of these Dracodons. Now the Cyprians are starting to really pepper things down, but that Bulwark is restoring shields all the time, and all of the Hurricanes are dead. There's not a single bit of armor rend left. And yeah, at this point, you can just get right in the face of those Cyprians, and he knows what's up. Hanmano's done plenty of rushes in the past, StarCraft 2 and now in Cosmonarchy. He's been held. GG. Game 1 goes the way of Arbuz. We'll see what's behind door number 2 here, because Hanmano showed some aggressive play. Is that going to condition Arbuz into Game 2? Speaking of Arbuz, he's in the chat. What's up, dude? Nice hold there. I feel like Hanmano could have selected a little bit better on the targeting, but a win is a win. Little ways that he can improve things if he wants to keep to the same sort of style. And we are getting into our second game to find out if Arbuz Budesh is going to change up his strategy or if he's going to let Hanmano come to him as far as all that is concerned. Now, we are live streaming these from replays, of course, and so I must point out, Arbuz has joined us in the chat. So maybe I'll postulate on some things just as I do when I'm casting, and then I'll read a chat message that elucidates things. For example, I can ask Arbuz why he has 5 Vespine gas. Must have been a misclick. Now, Hanmano is in the top left of now Impulsion, another Biddy map back to back. This is his map pick for game number 2. Upper Seed always picks first, and you know there's bands that go out first ahead of time. Now Arbuz is our, looks like our mint-colored Protoss in the bottom right, and Hanmano, our, is this also Palatinate Purple? No, Cordovan, a little bit darker. I should have known based on the name. It's a little brownish. I was going to say, that's a very different tone for Palatinate Purple if it was the same color, but sometimes they do look really deceptively different depending on the race. Sometimes I'll see like Tyrian Purple on a Scozy, and I'll be like, what? That's a modded color? That looks like a default purple. Anyway, we are here with another stockade open for our Terran player, and Arbuz is going for that 2-gate again. 5 Vespine is me changing mine from opening lattice first. Yeah, I thought maybe you had done that in game 1 as well. You got the perfect 25 gas and then decided to go gateway open, and I wasn't sure if you were just putting a down payment on your Dracodon, since that's the same cost, but you ended up going Hierophant first anyway, which is the same thing as Arbuz is doing in game 2 here. We do have Cyprians coming out once more for Hanmano, but it looks like this will be a Cyprian expand build. This is something that he popularized for a brief period of time when playing in some of the weekend wages and such, and some of the other events that we've seen where he will go for the 1 Cyprian, and then go for the Ministry, and then the Anchor behind it with a second Mason sometimes. He might not even bother with that one this time, though. I think he just wants more Cyprians. And, you know, it's really funny because he has gone for the playbook of be kind of aggro and rush in the beginning of the series and then pivot into something a little bit on the greedier side. Arbuz is going for the same exact opening as before, but it still is reserved the right to him to say, okay, I'm going to be a bit more proactive with my units now. That's something that he can and perhaps will do in this particular matchup. It looks like he's getting up to his own shenanigans for a faster Nexus. Much faster, I think, by a little bit of time here, at the very least, than the last time. A little bit more warmed up, shall we say. And getting Protoss 2 games in a row, I mean, it's not a foregone conclusion that he would indeed do that. So I think it's worthwhile to note that as well. Remember, he is random between Protoss and Zerg. Ministry will complete here in a moment, and Hanmano will have a slight economic advantage. But is it going to be significant enough as the Dracodons and the Hierophant have started to move forward? We have a Mason out here that can try to get in the way. I feel like the Hurakan being wasted as it was does make this a lot harder for Hanmano than it needs to be. Now, he will still pick off one of those Dracodons, and now he can try to focus down the Hierophant, but this is starting to get a little bit chancy. Couple more shots. Oh, missed the target there, so he got a little extra Cyprian damage than maybe what he should have. Faster attack speed is pretty dangerous there, but it happens at the time that the Draconin has such little health that it cannot really go any further. So, you know, scouting across a little bit late to punish, but gets a little bit of damage anyway. Kills a couple workers, kills a couple Cyprians. And that's about it. We still have that worker lead for the Terran, and it'll probably go up to about 3 or 4 workers tops as Arbiz finishes up his move. And he is going to go Grand Library. We did see Atreus show up at the end of game 1. Clearly it was buffed so good, just in time for Hit 'em Up to return from Hearthstone or wherever he's been. You know, he did tell me to buff it, so I did. I reduced its mineral cost. Or no, gas cost, I think it was. That's pretty funny. Not the buff he was looking for. Hurricanes run in just in time to play linebacker, and they will rebuff that attack from the Zealot. The Hierophant staying alive here is really showing how powerful it could have been on that defensive hold on Corrosion, how significant Hanmano is struggling to actually make his bio investment work, given the Hierophant slowing down the Hurricanes, forcing forcing Hanmano rather to deal with the upfront armor a little bit more. He's going to try to mass repair his Cyprians. One of them is still pretty low in the front there, but it is not going to be the one that gets targeted anytime soon. And now the Masons are playing linebacker, which is maybe not what you want. We got a couple more Hurricanes coming out as the stockade count blooms to 5. And a Cantavis is on the way. Do we have that embassy? Not yet. Arbu is going for more of a defensive response here. He sees that the bio army is starting to be doubled down into, so he puts down a bulwark and a second Grand Library for additional production. Shopkeeper Dog also in the chat, being very impressed by Hanmano's 3 Cyprian on the ramp defense. But it was not 3 Draconins is the main thing. It was the 2 Drac, 1 Hierophant, as I recall. And that definitely changes the math a little bit. The Hierophant doesn't do as much damage. It's more about abusing positioning when retreating against the Hierophant, or obviously when trying to move forward against the Hierophant with small numbers of Huracan. But as Green Eggs likes to say, Hanmano would win any fight as long as he had 1,000 Huracans. And it's not an exaggeration. Unitary Union on 2 base. So this is a little bit more on the aggressive side. Typically, I've seen Protoss go up to 3 base before they start going towards a heavy committal, at the very least, onto their tier 3. So we're going to watch and see just how more offensively minded this is. With the embassy doubling down, it feels like it's going to be some time before we actually hit that all-important 3rd base for the Protoss. And at the same time, Hanmano is expanding on location and moving out. So this is kind of him stretching his legs, spreading his wings, so to speak. He's trying to puff out his chest and push Arbuz into a defensive posture. And we do see that already be preemptively selected with, I'm guessing we're going to see a Cillian inside of the Unitary Union, but could be Architects, could be Unars. You can kind of pick any unit here. I'm sure Protoss players would say, no, not the Vibrance, but I mean, I don't think any race enjoys having a Vibrance suddenly show up in their mineral line. So if you can just pull defense here, that can be pretty good. Now, this Draconin was safeguarding that 3rd base. It will be rebuffed as we do have Hanmano moving out. He has a Vestry finishing up all the way back at home, and we are going to go up to 8 stockade. So, Cestus at the front gates, obviously helping to defend, giving everybody that frontal armor when facing their opponents. And it will be an Architect coming up. Now, when you have Shaman and Cleric and stuff, you can kind of sustain through small numbers of Architects, but eventually you get to a point where it's just a little bit too much. We're going to see how soon Arbuz is able to get up to that point, because obviously his dreams of a 3rd base were delayed. He could have gone elsewhere, but he really wants to take this one, thinks that this is the most defensible option, and I don't necessarily disagree. Scribe now coming on down after a pylon was made up here to expand his production, but that 3rd Ministry already on the way. So Hanmano consistently in this series has, well, at least in this match rather, has been outpacing his opponent in terms of expansion, where his base is almost complete as Arbuz's goes down. Or in this case, already complete. We do have a lodestone here, just in time to be spotted in construction by the Witness, so that's pretty cute. And we'll see if Hanmano ever sees the Shimmer. It's pretty hard to spot, I think. Particularly on this tile set sometimes. Some players, or some what would you say, pundits in the gaming space, particularly the competitive gaming space, would say, what? Readability issues that vary from tile set to tile set and specifically impact matchups? That's OP. That's nobody wants that, but I kind of like. I don't know. I'm kind of a weirdo like that. Now there is Storm available here for the Cantavis. Is going to be able to blanket that like little tip of the spear here for Hanmano, but now we got the Shamans coming up. and that will try to negate some of that storm damage. Oh, and the Cantavis is a little bit too far forward, but one glancing strike from the Cyprian misses and allows that Cantavis to stay alive for a moment longer. Oh, he gets blanketed. Ay, it's so close to him going down. Another storm. Adding value here now, has already dealt a decent amount of damage, and most importantly, zoned this army, canceled out the Harakans moving forward. And now the Striders, once again, reigning supreme. We haven't even needed that tier 3 bio, or that tier 3 robotics coming out of Arbuz. He ends up crushing it just based on that alone. The Shaman unpacks and starts moving back up towards the main base. We still have production. Some Mavericks are starting to trickle on in. And, you know, I do feel like maybe Mavericks have actually been a bit of a missing link here in Hanmano's first 2 games, because they are pretty spammable. And they scale up in DPS in these early game fights pretty nicely. Mason in the middle of the map. A couple of them actually have been rallied over. Looks like he's maybe thinking about taking 12 o'clock as his 4th base. Ahead of schedule versus his opponent once more. Ridge capping, trying to get that Vest Beam because he's pretty gas choked right now. And it's any wonder why. Adding even more stockades. He's got a deployed Shaman. He pops the Witness, trying to move a little bit too close to the sun there. But this whole army is starting to move over, and it will easily crush this base if there is no reaction from Hanmano. Even if there is, I'm actually struggling to see how he intends to do much of anything from this position. How do you attack into here with just the bio units that you've got? No drops, no Anseals to shield, nothing to allow the Harakans to really gain easy access into the enemy lines, but the Shamans are able to sustain the army enough that the Cyprians are going to be a threat. Now, the Mavericks aren't skimmed forward. This does feel like a pretty big missed opportunity. Hanmano throws down the Atlas, and now he's controlling his army a little bit nicer, a little bit better, trying to go after those Atriuses. Now, obviously the Architects are doing a ton of damage here, and this feels like where Arbuz is excelling with his army. It's just whittling down what Hanmano is doing. We're getting 12 Mavericks at a pop, but it feels like he needed one more cycle of bio units out in order to hold this long enough for any reinforcements to really start mattering. All of his Masons going down. Only now has he actually lost enough Masons to be down in workers, with, of course, an attempted take of 12 o'clock getting stymied by these 2 Drakodons as well. So Arbuz has done a really good job of controlling the speed of growth that Hanmano showed. I feel like if he was going to lose his whole army and all of the workers here, he needed to concede the base so he could keep one of those alive, particularly the army at this point. He's trying to block 3 o'clock from being taken, but that's academic right now. Hanmano looks like he is going to get routed. Mavericks are here to try to abuse the Ministry attackers, see if they can defend that, or at the very least make it somewhat costly as the Mavericks start to stem forward. We need another stem before that one expires. Honestly, this is a lot of Mavericks, so you got to respect that a little bit. And this is without any support besides the Shaman, of course. It's definitely without support from things like the Harakans for armor rend, and they still rebuffed that. With the Ministry staying alive, is there hope for our Terran? He has tier 2, making 6 Mav, 6 Cyprian, no bank really to speak of. Doesn't look like he's mining with the... yeah, he's only mining from this geyser with 1 worker, which is a bit of an oversight there. And we do have base number 4 coming up for the Protoss. Grand Library? No. That's what it used to kind of look like. It's the Ancestral Archives. And a second Unitary Union has been made as well. Is that around a Crucible? Not yet, but I'm sure we'll get one at some point. At this point, the world is Arbuz's oyster. We may see the Optecton come out to crush the bio. Although, honestly, Hanmano versus Oya, if anybody remembers Tribunal 2, that series of games is pretty funny. On Rage Slave, they had a match where Hanmano was killing Optectons with Harakan Cyprian. It's really funny. But it does feel like this is a superior position for Arbuz. He may not even need to dig into that tier 4 artillery. Shaman right on the front line, easy to focus down if that's what Arbuz wants to do. Now the Mavericks are still doing a decent amount of damage. Cyprian's obviously helping out quite a bit versus the armor, but cycling back with these Striders is a little bit too easy for Arbuz. Hanmano concedes game 2, and now we go into game 3 with, I guess, Hanmano hoping that the rolling is not Protoss again. Arbuz crushing face there in that game, despite Terran getting up to some early advantages in game 2. Let's see what's behind door number 3. Pretty wild scenes. Going to, ooh, Magnetron. I like that map. Let's get our overlay up to date. And wouldn't you know it, ladies and gentlemen, Game 3 will be another Protoss match for Arbuz Budash. He is the Glacial Protoss. Something about the Nexus gave it away. Hamano in the top right, the Mint Terran, copying the color of Arbuz from the last game. We are on Magnetron. This is Arbuz's pick. It's interesting to try to pick maps when you don't even know what race you're going to end up rolling as. So Arbuz had to have a game plan on this map for Zerg versus Terran as well as Protoss versus Terran. It's kind of why I really dig when players play random, even if it's selective random, because it takes a real strong understanding of what the game looks like, of what the matchups look like. I don't know, man. I really think there's a ton of value there, so I like it. I dig it. It's pretty cool. Arbuz is certainly a homie. You know what I'm saying? Apparently Hamano prayed for no Protoss, and it was not given to him. He is going to go mech, so he's abandoning the bio style, and it is again 2-gate with a Hierophant start. So, you know, Arbuz will be insulated against the Vulture play. This is a good style to have, 2 Falk. This is something that's fairly standard. So one thing that makes you think about it is like, well, if Hamano isn't practiced in the standard meta of going 2 Falk open, you know, is this really going to be him playing to his strengths? I mean, I will say, when Shopkeeper Dog made it versus Newt in the grand finals, and he was down, you know, in the series at one point facing elimination, I said, hold firm, keep the faith, go Eidolon, and he didn't go Eidolon. I think he won the game that I'm talking about too, but he didn't win the series, and that's what matters. Keep to your style, man. Doesn't mean you can't change things up. But if you don't know how to play a certain style, don't play it. I don't know. It's like that's my tastelessism, where he says if you can't attack a base, don't attack it. Yeah, that's, you know, sounds obvious, and it kind of is. But sometimes people are like, I don't know how to play this style, but it's the standard, so I'll try it. In a tournament game, I think that kind of goes out the window. You gotta go with what you've prepped and what you're comfy with, which isn't always the same thing. Enough about per tournament, per player stylistic choices. We are in Game 3 of this series. Could end all here and now. See how the Vultures end up going in. It's a 3-gate start here for Arbuz, so he's preparing for something a little bit more aggressive. Also makes any early shenanigans a bit more difficult for Hamano to pull off, but I love that he's going for an expansion here. For his odds, I think this makes the most sense, especially since we are seeing a slower expansion take from Arbuz. So not because Hamano went for a greed, but because Arbuz went for more of a military-oriented opener, we are going to see Hamano take an economic advantage. And his Vultures are going to come in and potentially do some DPS down to that Hierophant. Get him body blocked by the Zealots. That's pretty good. Now we are going to see a couple of mines be laid. That should be enough to make this attack a little bit well, let's just say not very exciting for Arbuz. His Zealots are still way back. They're not even selected with the rest of the army, and so the Vultures can absolutely run roughshod over Ecclesiasts and, of course, the Hierophant if they are allowed to. But again, we don't see mines taken. You know, opportunity laid. Not quite something that's going to happen here. That one Zealot very wounded indeed. We got a couple more reinforcements streaming across the map. 2 more Zealots and another Ecclesiast. This can be a little bit dangerous, right? Clearly, what Arbuz was expecting was bio. You know, going Zealot Ecclesiast with the 1 Hierophant can get in the face of Cyprian comps and just kind of shut them down really early on. Vultures can, with good control, run around this without too much issue, but he did need to kind of jump on the Hierophant immediately. I think there was room in that opening sortie to do that. Mines popped without stunning Hamano's Vultures, which is pretty good. Not every Terran can do that. See that time and time again. You know, it's ASL season for StarCraft 1, and the fact that we're getting up to Acropolis season in terms of the main stage, we get to see all those epic matchups that we're used to. You know, like we're going to be able to see, you know, Newt and Shopkeeper Dog and Hit 'em Up and Crankendow and Hamster and Neblime and, well, Arbuz. Arbuz's Protoss when he ends up rolling it, assuming he ends up qualifying with an opportunity to do that. I think that would be really cool. I'm just getting a vibe of like, oh man, would Hamano's playing this a bit much more aggressively and maybe with a little bit unpracticed micro, but he's got so many Vultures. And he's adding 3 more Falks, so he's really going heavy in on the 2 base. But it made me think of all the other matchups that we're going to see, and I'm just excited, guys. I'm excited for the tournament season to feel like it goes super hard into it underway. Look at that. So, sort of sortying around right now. The Zealots are leading the charge, and most of the Vultures were not firing for most of that time. But an Ecclesias goes down. Protoss ends up cycling backwards. We have a couple idle Masons over here. One of them gets picked apart, which is insult to injury, I think, when you kill an opponent's idle worker. It's like, damn, I could have gotten money out of that guy. Now I get nothing. Now these 3 Fulcrums are only now coming online. We are going to get right on top of the production as Arbu is going to try to go for the kill here. Well, the Masons are going to start pulling. Is this an overcommittal? It feels like it should be an illegal move. Let's see if we can get any referee in here to determine that. The Masons trying to cycle all around. Struggling a little bit, it looks like, to find a target. The Vulture is getting picked apart. It's all Dracodons all the time, and one Ecclesias to keep them alive. Oh no! Hamano has fallen inside his own base. GG! Arbu's 3 gates to victory here, and that, my friends, is a very fast 3-0 for him. One of our faster series, but Game 2 is a little bit more even, I would say. That's going to be the end of our South Korean legend, Han Mano, in our Tribunal number 5. I'm sure we'll see him in Tribunal number 6, and I'm sure we'll see him through the Gauntlet stage if he doesn't make it through that one, just because his mechanics are good enough to be in the top 20, 25 players of Cosmonarchy, and I feel like there's enough space in there for him, but we have to find out ourselves. Lads, that is where we find ourselves with Arbus in the grand final, favored against whoever comes across him, but we have to find out the answer to that. It's going to be a ZVZ matchup up next for semifinal number 2. Stay tuned. Yeah, that was an Ogre Protoss moment, you know, an Ogre Zerg gamer, Ogre Toss gamer right there. For real, for real. So, that is the end of our first best of 5. We got 2 more to go. Going to be casting semifinal number 2 and grand final as well. And up next we got a ZVZ. I'm looking forward to that one. Off against Arbus. I guess rubber is when you get to like the 5th game of a best of 5 or whatever, right? You're going to the decider. Anyway, Cannoli is the Pumpkin Zerg in the bottom left. Going to be going for just a K-Grim. Okay, I was a little excited. And going for a pool open, we've got the Green Zerg of Art of Turtle in the top right. We are on Macroglia for our first matchup here. And I'm looking forward to this EVZ. I feel like there's a potential for Cannoli. You look at the seeding, though, number 3 versus number 7. AOT is a heavy favorite. Cannoli upset Doglived, but it was a pretty one-sided affair based on the fact that Doglived was going for a fairly aggro set of plays. And that just maybe weren't practiced enough, you know what I'm saying? Now, we do have Cannoli moseying on up here to see that it is a pool into Larvosk. His own Larvosk should finish a little bit sooner. And he's just being a nuisance. He's just being a nuisance. If you guys are wondering how to contact Cannoli now, you'll have to pop into our Stoat server or our Steam group because he decided to say goodbye to Discord, and for good reason, you know what I mean? But we are thinking about also moving over to Fluxer. It seems like a better spot. I'll have more formalized announcements when that comes, but I just figured I would note that Cannoli is not able to show up in the community that we all are currently in because he is elsewhere right now. But that's okay. So, we have the pool finished up. A Circuith already defensively as expecting that pool first for AOT to show up into something a little bit more aggressive. I don't know. It feels like the early Circuith feels like a pretty heavy committal defensively, especially since his own unit's finished up in time anyway. But AOT can't fight against that, that's for sure. And so he's actually going to get sort of stuffed here immediately, losing a bunch of his Zets on the way back. His second Larvosk is done, so he has the Larva advantage. Let's see how he deals with all of the Zerg moving across the map right now. It's going to be an interesting thing for him to deal with for sure, because I don't think he's actually got a lot of units out ready. He's going to have Quas hatching. He's got these Zets to try to buy time, and he abandons his ramp. I think that's pretty wise. Try to come back in to it when he can. Yeah, it looks like I guess that was enough to force Cannoli back. I really thought that would take a little bit more of a bloody turn with a proper skirmish against it. But looks like he's going to try to push his opponent away. AOT's seizing control of his natural area. And his Vornath is finishing up back in his base. So that's an important little factor as well. We just have Larvos number 2 finally coming online for Cannoli. And the one Zeth coming in here to see if it can be a nuisance, but... Oh, not quite enough to kill that Droleth. Man can dream. No expansion for either player just yet. Cannoli has the money in the bank to perhaps do that. While I've got you guys here, I should mention we're working on re-implementing how music works in StarCraft's engine so that we can have our own little bit of customizability there. And I definitely think it'll be fun to have the music randomly select from, randomly build a playlist that loops from all active races in a match. And so obviously this would just be Zerg music instead of the Terran that we're seeing or hearing right now, but that's just a little idea that we were having. Just make it a bit more out there. And then obviously, you know, having user configurable music, if you like the Zerg music but you play Terran or whatever, being able to do that in your config, I think that would be nice. Give you a little something. Nominally, it's to allow Ascozi music to be played in-game for the Ascozi race, but it gives us other features too. So shout out Jesse for working on that. Now, the expansion is coming for AOT, as well as a Hydrith Den. Cannoli, meanwhile, is just going for his own Vornath. We have those Nathracors sort of patrolling the area, and they are going to dive in, do a little bit of a sweep. There's a bunch of burrowed units over here that are going to strike immediately, and so these Nathracors aren't going to be able to accomplish too much, but getting a scout off is worthwhile, and actually they all survive. That's surprising. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought probably 2 of them were going to die. Cannoli not able to chase and pursue. We do have a couple of larvae down here in the natural, not turning into anything just yet, despite the money, and some workers are being made. So going straight up to the Calcure Lake, wouldn't surprise me if we end up seeing some Nathracors preemptively made, but if we don't, then we know Cannoli is planning on a pretty big Lyrilusk attack. And that could overwhelm the forces on the ground. But Iziracors are coming, so don't expect your Zethacors to be able to accomplish too much. Nathracors are sighted, they do a little bit of heckling. If you attack with your Nath and then start flying it away, you get the Adrenal Frenzy proc, so you end up getting a little bit more movement speed. Cannoli's surging around. Even though his tech is about to finish, Cannoli wants to give this a go. I'm not so sure that he should, especially as he spots the Iziracors. I think he needs to start falling back. Nice little concave that he ends up forming, almost incidentally by his pathing there. So that's pretty neat. And he does pop most of the Nathracors in the process, only one of them staying alive. But he loses a lot of his front line in the process. Ski backed on the way already for AOT. Would not be surprised to see Bactyls here. Some Zergs think that Teth Zoracors are like the be-all, end-all in this matchup. I think that, you know, they've been adjusted a lot since that opinion was founded, and so I'm not entirely sure that it is the Teth race still. But if that is still the win condition or a win condition in this matchup, I mean, Cannoli's down a base, so of course him being down tech isn't particularly surprising. But it looks like he's made the evaluation that he needs to move across the map and just win the game based on that. And if he ends up abandoning his front post here and these Zethacor run-bys continue and make it all the way into his main base, yeah, he's got the one circuit. It's super exposed. I really don't think he's going to be able to defend it. So it does depend on the timing here. If AOT comes in with all of these Zeths, he scouts out the Lyras, so that's a little bit of info for him. But if AOT, successfully keeps these Zeths around in the map, then is Cannoli going to feel comfortable moving out on the map? I'm not sure. Well, he is surrounded, so I think these Zeths are going to be taken care of just fine. Cannoli can now start making his way across. We don't have the Khaz'trith, which is what AOT typically puts there inside the natural. Going for instead a bit of a... Oh, he's going to go for the Khaz'trith down here. Okay. I was going to say that's a little bit different. But even though it's going to finish up in a moment here, the army of Cannoli is still a little bit on the deadlier side. Is it going to be quite enough to break through what AOT has? He's going to dive forward and see if he can break apart the circuits, but as that Khaz'trith finishes up, it's going to start spreading its influence ever wider. Extra attacks afforded to all of AOT's units. Still, it's a bloodbath over here in front of the static defense, but it looks like the Iziracors will hold. Expansion only now coming up. No distance mining even right now for those units. You could send them to the middle of the map. They'd get something at least, but that feature of Macroglia going unnoticed, unutilized right now. And the swamp is on the way, so Teths are going to be available. Not really relevant to this matchup right now, but Vithralisks, the Devourer equivalent, are going to be available. And Arbuz in the chat chiming in. He's adjusted his Teth opinion. Now it's Ultra Core. Yeah, well. You win some, you lose some. So I do think that with Cannoli going for the Shroud, perhaps he's buying into the hype there. But this run-by will be quite successful. All of Cannoli's units are out of position, and that Kagran has to be canceled. The mining has to be pulled away, and this if this hatch goes down, and it will. There's nothing to defend it. That might honestly just be GG. You might just save your energy here. Cannoli's a stubborn guy, and I guess he doesn't expend too much energy, but... Is he going to even keep fighting after that? That was a great maneuver from AOT. It feels academic now to see what happens after this. Pops in here, scouts out all the tech as well. He sees that the Shroud is coming. No need to go after workers. His economy is so much worse right now. Pretty big oversaturation on both these bases, so there is that as well. Wild scenes. 26 Zeths and 2 Teths are about to pop. Zeth and Teth. Zeth and Teth sounds like they're pretty similar, but then you look at the 2 units and you're like, holy shit. What's the Z for? 0T? Get it? Get it? Well, Cannoli's going to have quite the hell of a hold ahead of him. Zoryu's coming out, but some time away from being able to waddle up to the front line and provide support. I just don't see it happening. Sort of wiggling around here. Let's see what can happen as he tries to dive forward. Well, Lyralist getting caught there. The Tets are going to get to close the distance, and how are you possibly going to defeat them? Here come all the Nathracors as well. There's a little bit of splash damage from the Lyralist Cantier, but there's just not that many units over here, man. And the hatch finishes just in time to get splattered and sliced. Sliced and diced. Yeah, the Zoryus aren't long for this world either. Some more Lyralisks being made. Desperation here for Cannoli. Hatch is destroyed for the second time. No mining for him at the natural, and... well, his levers are going to get spawn camped here a little bit. They do clear out all of the air units at the very least, but there is nothing to stop the cleaving of AOT's ground army. Powering up to a Game 1 win. GG. Cannoli concedes. Not that he had much left before it was an eliminatus. That is our first game. Let's see what's behind door 2. I wonder if we'll see the Ultra Core race here. That would be kind of fun. Something different, at least. Ah! Lads, lads, lads. It is time for game 2 between Cannoli and Art of Turtle. We've got Pumpkin in the top left and Art of Turtle's green in the bottom right. So, same colors, but very different map. Monazite. Cannoli made this map. Cannoli picked this map. Will Cannoli win this map? It's an island map, so I'm very interested to see what ZVZ looks like here. Fastest access to transports out of any race in the game. But nobody needs to start with it. Hydrathen going to be the opener here. Cannoli going to open with an extra bit of larva. And then it looks like he's going to be going for the pool. Man, back in the day on island maps, Zerg was the most busted because the Shroud gave access to Gorger cores without you needing to upgrade it. So, yeah, you could conceivably do like Gorg Rush and have it be your first combat unit, and it wouldn't be that slow. So, it wasn't exactly... It wasn't uncounterable, but it was really hard to expect it. And if you expected it and countered it, then what if there's ground units instead? You know, it's just not the healthiest. Not the healthiest. But speaking of staying healthy, I'm going to take a sip of water. and then we'll see what's coming up in these strategies. Take that opportunity as well to remind you guys we are raising money for a 2 versus 2 cup. It'll be a fun time there for sure. So if you want to donate towards that, it is streamlabs.com/pronogo, the best place to send your moolah. You can also go to our coffee page and donate there monthly just to support general project development. You get some pretty cool behind-the-scenes looks and updates and, you know, a dedicated chat channel, maybe a little bit of input if you want to make your voice heard about the game. Certainly a more exclusive club than just chatting in the rest of the Discord server. Looks like both players had it in mind to go for an Izira drop here, or rather a drop in general. So there's Izira and Quasilisks going to be changing hands. And Canoli's making more combat units, but AOT is not. AOT is making the Larvask. He's actually been pretty far behind on Larva because he went for, you know, the Ovaleth into Droleth, but he didn't actually use it for anything. I don't think his build order is superbly articulated here. I think this is looking pretty good for Canoli. You know, Iziracors do beat Quas quite handily, but when they're in the mineral line or whatever is going to happen there, it's going to be a little bit hard to follow. So we got a couple of Hydras coming out here, but not in great quantities. And unloading the Quas right in the way, yeah, that's an easy picking. Iziracor's also not actually attacking whole hog into those Quas. Well, trying to charge forward. It looks like another Hydra is popped. Got a few more coming. Oh no, those are Iziracors. There's only the one Hydra to defend. A lot of Droleths being killed over here. Multitasking not great from AOT right now. It does look like another Droleth is going to go down. Only 5 workers in the main. But how much damage can AOT do in response? A lot of Droleths are fighting. Not a lot of Droleths are dying. Hold on. Oh my god, every one of them goes down. Did he even lose any workers? I don't see any Droleth corpses. AOT's Ovaleth leaves in shame. He only killed a couple Quas, that's it. And he lost just about everything. Now, no expansion just yet. And his Ovaleth is too far away to load that Droleth back up to help mine over here or whatever you might want to do there. Not exactly any opportunity to go for anything else, so... There's a couple of burrowed workers that you can basically count as temporarily dead workers. They need to be resuscitated. There it is. Can only injects them with Lazarus Agent or something. Honestly, pretty wild situation. Wild scenes. Now, 2 IZs and a Hydra, but there's no drop being exchanged here, or is there? Oh, there are! Okay, never mind. He's just got so many units compared to his opponent. But he also has a lot more money. And so again, AOT is going to end up sending most of his army away, or half of his army, I guess, because more Iziracors are coming. Another Ovaleth comes out. Looks like he's going to go for his own expo. He's got his Quas scattered to the winds. And he's unloading his units directly on top of the Iziracors there. Now he's going to try to go for it again. And yeah, his Quas actually do get caught up here, but they almost kill an Iziracor. More workers are going to be going down here. It's pretty painful in ZVZ. 2 workers dying. Trying to kill that Larvask here, but one of the IZs goes down immediately. The Hydra is the next target, of course, because of its lower armor. And now we will see maybe an attempted stop versus this expo take. But the Quas come out. I love the burrow, by the way, like in full view of the Ovaleth that is a detector. What a bizarre looking set of events, honestly. Very strange. Only on island maps would you get stuff like this, I tell you. Now, one Zethicor is still technically here, but I'm not sure that Canoli will see that. No, now he will. AOT will see it at the very least. He tried to catch him with Iziracors. I could have told you that wouldn't have worked. That's like, not from personal experience, I guess. It did remind me, though, of the scene in Napoleon Dynamite where the guy gets a scam trying to, like, go back in time to play football or whatever. And instead he just electrocutes his balls. Yeah, that scene where he's like, I could have told you that. 18 Quas, though. That might work. 1 Skithracor. AOT trying to play from behind on the island map. Going to go ahead and Maynard some workers via the transport. He's got 2 idle over here, though. Circuit is going to help out quite a bit, honestly. Although I actually don't know how many quads it takes to kill a Circuit. Probably not as many as you'd think. Only has 1 effective armor versus them. But that's still pretty good, because that still reduces their damage from 6 to 4. I don't know. Divide 275 by 4. Get the number of attacks it takes. Then divide that by the... Multiply that by the cooldown, I guess. There you go. Now we know how to do math. He's gonna come in. I feel like with the Zero Cores and the skits here, this is enough to make Cannoli reconsider his drop. But maybe I'm wrong. Does feel like this is a little wasteful. It is all within the fighting range of the Circuit. One skip has gone down. Wow, the Zero Cores are going to be next. Yeah, those will all die. He changes his target there. He could have killed that last one, but yeah, not very good. Now he did unload some quads to walk down here. Maybe at best they can kill a worker or whatever, but there are defenders over here. So, oh my god, he actually sniped the K-Grid. I was not prepared for that. So that's pretty funny. They did get a worker kill. It was a slightly more expensive worker. And I ain't talking about an Agrolith. That's a good question, Godwee. He asks, did I win? Well, you weren't even on today's stream, so you tell me. I didn't shit talk you because you weren't on my stream, so does that count as a win? Hope you're doing well, dude. The 4 skits are kind of patrolling the map right now, trying to establish some form of air dominance, and AOT has actually gotten back into the game as far as worker count, and maybe it could be argued larva count as well. Definitely behind, but not as bad as maybe it would initially think. I guess if he goes for a Skith Mass, it might be a little bit of a challenge for Cannoli to counter that, but he is going for the Vornath. Eventually, when he gets to Calcure Lake, he can go for his much-needed set of Lyrilisks and just kind of shut it down that way. Or perhaps more likely, he'll just go Calx. This is an air map, an island map, so air units do make sense. Pretty big Quaz drop going to be attempted here. What would be a second Spraith is not quite ready to morph yet. He burrows, but there's still plenty of spread damage we can do here. Cannoli narrowly still has a worker advantage. Just kind of goes to show you his dominance here. This is buying a little bit of time. The unburrow from the Ovelots is going to scramble the Quaz into position. Buy time for that Spraith. Second one does end up finishing. Workers end up unburrowing for just a moment. And then, yeah, they will take some damage here, but just trying to relocate into a position where the skits can't kill them for free. And so back to mining they go. Cannoli adding more workers. And he will end up potentially thinking about maybe just marching across the map. So one thing that I should mention, I just said this is an island map. I didn't really elaborate. Your mains are the only islands, I think. I think everything else, all of the other bases on the map, are accessible by land. So kind of a cute idea, where as soon as you drop to the low ground, you're good. You know, it's a land map. But it takes effort to get to that point, where you have a lot of production on the ground and it turns into a ground map again. So I like the idea of it for sure. I think that's like a really cool idea of the concept. A really cool concept. I'm not sure if this is everybody's favorite articulation of that concept, you know, execution-wise. But I think it looks really cool. Now, I'm saying that from the perspective of the commentator, of the spectator. Also, Cannoli really needs to fix his gas mining here. Both players looking to expand. 12 and 6 going to be the targets. Damn, we're actually going into a macro game on Monazite? Hell yeah, dude. Macroglia, Macrozite. Macronazite. That's what I say. Ovelat scouting around. Don't see really any movement yet. These 3 skits are going to be on the mini-map. 15 Lyras being morphed on the low ground. He's just elevatoring units down. Kind of what you have to do when most of your production is up here. But, you know, makes sense. Never ended up making that into a Spraith in the bottom left of his main, but the Quasar are still guarding things. Reinvestment into skits has been scouted. We're going to need to see some more anti-air soon. Still no actual expansion down here at 6 o'clock for AOT, though. He's been making macro hatches and not much else. He's going to dive in here. Oh, the Teth drop. Oh, that's not what we expected. Immediately, he's going to need to do some kind of reaction here. Look at this. Maybe we just evacuate the workers. That seems to be something that Cannoli is considering. He doesn't have any tech over here, though. I don't know. This is not looking so good. I thought Cannoli was going to take the whole game, but he doesn't want to elevator his combat units back up. He just wants to go for some kind of survival play. This is a little bit dangerous. Those skits are doing a lot of damage. Remember, he's got his own envelopes here for detection as well, so the burrow doesn't really help out that much. Still, the skits won't really be able to do too much here to defend, and it does look like, while AOT has gutted the main base of Cannoli, Cannoli is going to take care of everything down here on the low ground. No questions asked. Even his Lyras can just punch up here as well and kill those ground units, so we are going to get some Zeths made inside the main base. We are going to eventually have to see that tech get rebuilt as well. That macro hatch really screwing things up halving-wise as the units are trying to get up to the high ground. They need to just right-click stuff. Oh. Probably OBS, I guess. Lucy is the admin, so... Yeah, there you go. Confirmation of it. So, all good there. Shout out to Lucy for the admin. And he's just going to get their POV, I'm guessing. It was too exciting, guys. Macro game on Monazite? No way. I have to have a little kerfluffle there in the middle. But Zero Cores get elevator down and try to stop this attack from wreaking havoc everywhere. The multitasking has been pretty intense. And it does look like the army was routed over here courtesy of some Zeth. Zeth beat Teth? No way. Wow, and Cannoli's still going to go ahead and clear this out despite AOT's best efforts. He is making 9 Teth Zora Cores. I think he's going to be fine. He's got a lot of drops available to him. And yeah, this is the big crucial difference here. Oh no, the expansion stays alive just barely. Does it? Where are the drops going? Oh, okay, it's going to be a counterattack. So, I'm not sure if Cannoli deliberately left these alive. But, I was told that this is the functioning version of the replay. And you know, these resources floating, that's not that surprising, actually. That doesn't bamboozle me too much, to be honest. Still making more units, still making more workers. Are we just saving up all of our money for the calcs? It looks like it. Makes 4 initially. Coming up to attack. The calcs are not done yet. Do we have any ground army? Okay, the rest of the army immediately responding, being told from 6 o'clock to try to defend this. Ends up remorphing these K-Grins and stuff. Yeah, Cannoli's got a lot of money in the bank. This is like Cannoli, but maybe a little bit unlike Cannoli, if you know what I mean. So I'm not so sure that we have the most functioning version of the game. But he pulls his workers, and he's trying to kill the Teths with calcs, which is a little bit questionable. Oh my god. A Nath versus Teth fight. Still, it looks like this army has been routed. See how, oh, well, he's got 1 Teth up here that he might not have noticed. See how soon that ends up changing up hands. I do think we have a slightly broken version of the replay. just slightly. But it does look like the exposed eye for real, you know what I mean? And I guess we can surmise that there were a lot of Nather cores turned into calcs that didn't quite happen in our version. I'll take a look to see if there's a working version a little bit later on, but you can see Cannoli's moving in the bottom left. And there comes the Teth attacking again. Classic. Yeah, I suppose that probably didn't happen in the real deal of it all. I have no idea what happened here. This is really funny. Yeah, 30 kills Zeth. It's a hero. Oh my god. Nah, I don't mind him. So AOT is still loading drops up and unloading stuff. I'm going to pull up the thread here because I was pretty sure this was the one that was sent to me. Yeah, this does look like the only replay I was given, so we'll check another one after this, but we'll just play some guesswork in the meanwhile. I'll go ahead and grab that replay in the background anyway, another copy of it. See what we can find out here. Oh, well, while I was grabbing the replay in the background, that actually looked like a real fight, and then AOT dropped the GG. Well, okay, never mind. That actually was pretty close to what we were expecting out of that. I'll see if I can get a more accurate replay in the meanwhile. All right, I do have one that I do want to check real quick, and then we'll get into our, you know, if it's no different than whatever, you know. They just got lazy at the end. Yeah, it's entirely possible. I guess what I'll do is I'll wait until I see the third base be under attack from AOT's third base, and then we'll take stock of things. Apologies about that little awkwardness there. I'm guessing it looked pretty accurate. It just had slightly different, what would you say? Quantities of units is my guess. Okay. So we're on Cannoli's replay in the background here while I'm not on stream, obviously, but I'm taking a look. It looks like it goes the same exact way. So, yeah, I guess we got Lucy's POV. That must have been what happened. Is we got Lucy's POV. But no matter. Okay, we're going to go to our third map. Tied up, 1-1. All right, lads, it is game 3 between AOT and Cannoli. We are tied up 1-1. Just a note, I did check Cannoli's version of the replay. It looks like we were using AOT's. They both had the same issue. My working theory there is that was basically what Lucy was seeing, so we were seeing the spectator POV, and that was just what got serialized to the replay for everybody for whatever reason. Caches are weird, dude. But we do have a confirmation that AOT did drop that game, because for him, the armies were bigger. You know, Cannoli ended up surrounding him and picking him apart with all the naths and stuff, so unfortunately we didn't get to see the actual bona fide, certified Angus beef ending of that, but we are done with that game on Monazite. Was a banger to see a macro game there. And now we go into some pool action. Pool first for both players. And it looks like Cannoli in particular being a little aggro with it. We are on Magnetron, port of Tokamak from StarCraft 2. This is done by yours truly. Map by Pronago. However, what was the first map we played on Macroglia? That's a Biddy map. So we're seeing Biddy, Cannoli, and Pronago so far as map authors. I can't remember who originally made Tokamak, but I credit them in the map description. So Nobody goes uncredited around here. Accreditation is pretty important. I can't remember everybody's name, personally. But I wrote it down. So, Cannoli is going to be going for his Zeth attack. He's got a Larvosk just about ready to go. Yeah, queued up almost immediately after the Kagura pops. And AOT's is faster, but that's because his pool was a little bit later. And they're both going to be going for Zeths. Now, Magnetron isn't the shortest rush distance out of all things, so I don't know. Also, just to note, the word tokamak is like a real engineering term. It's pretty cool as a name. I find it interesting, you know, layered, nuanced, subtle. Terran tokamak also sounds pretty cool, so maybe that'll be like a factional structure or something. So Cannoli's Zeths come in and announce themselves firsthand, beating them at the ramp of AOT. All the way out of his natural, though, so he's going to be diving backwards. He's got his own circuit starting up. I think this is supposed to be a Larvosk, so the fact that that's been forced already does feel like a victory. He couldn't cancel it in time. I think when you break all of that pressure, you're actually thinking about popping a Larvosk there instead, but it's all right. That's not something that AOT wanted to do. Now, the Zeths didn't quite get very far. I don't think they clicked on that to see that it was a circuit. Cannoli might think he's actually a little bit behind here. But I would favor his position overall. His own Zeths see the army leaving. He's going to make a round of Drillets and then some Zeths of his own. Should be in time to prevent this attack from doing too much. The Quaz standing vigil at the ramp. Popping one Zeth and not quite the other. Not quite. Indeed, the Zeths do indeed pop right in time to defend that circuit that's about to pop. The birtheth circuit. And, of course, we have more Droleth on the way for both players. So, AOT has a significant worker advantage right now. We'll see if that holds true over time. But Cannoli's catching up just now. His round is done. Shroud goes up. Oh, Shroud goes up and Shroud goes down. For both players, we are going to see Zorius, maybe some Lakes. And if that Zeth had stayed alive down here, that would have been pretty nice. No can do, however. So cannot keep watch on the expansion timing of his opponent. Zeths are going to run past the circuit and see if they can get any damage done. So far, they've done a little bit of economic harassment, you know, lost mining time and all that, but it doesn't look like any workers will actually go down. And Cannoli's within 3 of his opponent. Now, they both are going Shroud, but only AOT knows that they're both going Shroud. Only one Zeth kept alive. Ooh, narrowly ends up escaping. And a Hydrith Den. Whoa, he canceled it. It was so close to completion, he canceled it to make a Hydrith. So trying to be tricky. I mean, I know the temptation. I am a tricky player myself. But sometimes you trick yourself, man. And losing out on tech that late into the game. Not like he's got a Vornath to fall back on either. So the hatch goes down for AOT. And we are going to end up with some Lakes for him. He's foregoing the usual Zorius starter. Thinking that, well, what he needs is damage. To try to get through the meat of what Cannoli is likely to throw at him. I mean, I know, I talked about certified Angus beef and all that. And that was for a reason, guys. That was for a reason. The meat is coming. And as the Larvosk number, 3 comes up, we might even see Larvosk number 4. Cannoli's got a pretty good gas bank here. Is he going to want to go for any Bactyls anytime soon? I feel like that's a possibility. Bactyl with Avaleth is pretty good against just straight-up Lakes. It struggles versus the Zorius, but you can maybe go for Hydras into that. Ends up being a defensive circuit. We got Burrow on that expo timing. Keeping watch. Cannoli has favored these more one-base oriented plays if you think about game 1 and now this game. Macroglia, he was on one base for a really long time. Zeth run buys from AOT ended up killing his hatch. Now, no expansion for him yet. He is going to clear that burrowed Zeth and then maybe think about moving across the map. We already have a Zeth run by queued up, however. And even though he's got double circuit, You can still come around here, kill this Larvosk down here, you know, do annoying, tricky things. Those could even just meet up with an Ovaleth later in the game if he wants to transport them in there. But the run-by can definitely get some value. So we'll see. Ovaleth coming for AOT. Ski back for Cannoli. Has some Hydras with this army that he can turn into Bactyls. No Zorius yet for our green Zerg. Oh. It is an Ultra Core race. Single Zeth moving up here for AOT. Confirms the hatch. Starts to heckle it. Rest of them are going to come in as reinforcements. Cannoli's not too bothered by this. Presumably he's got 4 Izira cores finishing up, so he can go deal with it that way. And he's going to start making Bactyls right on the front step of AOT's net. Yeah, the Izira cores are going to be more than enough to deal with this. Lakes are spotted. No Avaleth here for Cannoli, so this is a bit of a problem. He has no easy way to make magic happen here. I like the idea of AOT trying to pick that hatch, but versus all those Izira cores, it was never going to work out. 3 Zorius on the way. Avaleth of his own. AOT is going to be more than happy to do some damage here. But his Zeths are just getting annihilated. They're just going to get flattened, basically. Almost none of them making it out alive. Out of all those, he only has 7 left. And re-up with the 4 out there already. Feels like that's a pretty bad turn of events for AOT, actually. But again, we don't have any detection over here. I think he's going to be fine. Especially with Ultra Cores all the way. Skits coming up. AOT going to be taking to the skies once again. Or no, that's actually Cannoli. My mistake. I was going to say, wait a minute, he doesn't have a ski back. Trying to go after that wounded hatch. I like the idea. If the Izira cores weren't there, it would work out better. Oh my god. The slimmest of margins, guys. 2 health. Okay. The Avaleth is here. We've got Ultra Cores and Zorius. He doesn't have any way of rending armor. No Vorvs, no Zorius himself. But what if he went Vith? He goes Vith, he attacks the Avaleth. It's great. I swear. Good unit. Let's see what everybody's focus fire here is. The Ultra Core. This is actually going to end up going down pretty early. There's a couple more where that came from, though. Bactyls are now being engaged upon by the Zets. Oh, they're getting shredded. Izira cores aren't really in the fight right now. But yeah, the rest of the Ultra Cores are going to come out, and I feel like they're going to be way too powerful. The lake is burrowing. Not really many targets for them, honestly, but that's going to clear out the front. And Cannoli drops the hash. Lucy, once again, getting bopped. Unbelievable. Owned. Well, Cannoli's going to make a lot of emergency Hydras. Lucy is on Linux. There's something there. There's something potentially there. Let's hope for a better outcome on the replay stability than the last time. Now, we do have the Khazitras coming up for him. He is going to try to make some kind of desperate defense happen. We do have 8 Lakes for AOT coming up as well. There will be detection, not just the Khazitras, but obviously there's an Avaleth here. These skits have been banked up in the background. Charging forward. There's not that much armor, and really Rokors were made as emergencies. Here comes the Lakes. The Khazitras is all the way over here, and none of Cannoli's units are actually using it for defense. None of them are helping out. None of them are being utilized. Oh my god, the Ultra Cores are being forced down, focused down by the Hydra count. And the Lakes are all the way at the front line, so that's a little bit painful. Because, AOT's army is not quite synergizing with itself right now. But it almost doesn't matter. I mean, he's still knocking on the door, pounding down the front gate, and Cannoli's got a pretty big bang. His skits are coming in to attack the main base of AOT, who does look back there in time to see what's going on. But I don't think it matters. That hatch is finally dead. The Zets couldn't quite make it happen. And now this throng of Zerg units is moving up. Lake is going to try to range down all these units as they hatch. Skit's still doing what they can, but the units are just burrowed. They've shut down mining on multiple locations, but Cannoli drops the GG. He knows he's been routed. He cannot possibly deal with what AOT has brought to the table, and that, my friends, is a GG. AOT leading. Needs one more win to make it to the grand final. That was a pretty legit game. It was, there's full of excitement. Interesting. Okay. I had to rename the file because it was too long. Happens sometime. Okay. Let's get that overlay up. 2 wins for AOT. Cannoli, bottom left of frozen sylphid pumpkin. I looked at it before I actually guessed the color, but he's always pumpkin. I don't think that counts. It doesn't give. I don't get points for guessing pumpkin when it's always pumpkin. You know what I mean? But Japanese Violet up here for AOT, and he is at 12 o'clock, and he is going for a very fast scout to the wrong direction because his pool is coming down very quickly. He wants to see if we can end this very fast. Go for the jugular, the demoralizing effect that can have on somebody. It's almost too much to bear. Starting to get some Vespine, so it's not an all-in mineral play. He wants to go for a Larvosk behind this. And yeah, AOT 12 o'clock and only bottom left. Drolith confirms nothing bottom right. Can now return home safely, and we can get some Zets coming. A little bit out of sync from what we normally see, but that's going to be a lot of Zets. And Cannoli doesn't even have his pool yet, so... Oh, it's a Hydrith. That's why he doesn't have his pool yet. Larvosk into Hydrith. Man, this is really unfortunate. I wanted to start building this one up in the 3-spawn map. Cannoli 1 map away from being eliminated, but he can force a game 5. How are we feeling about a game 5, ZBZ? I'm feeling it. But I don't think AOT is. With the Hydrith not even halfway done as the Drolith arrives to reinforce the push with a forward Circuith. It's a little bit too far back, but it doesn't matter. The Zets are here. I mean, what do you even do against this one? You lost your Larvosk already. Full kill on it. The Hydrith not done. The Hydrith isn't going to finish. He's making the Circuit. He could make a Larvosk at this point, dude. There's just nothing here. All the larvae being used, and the Hydrith is now targeted. He's going to come back over here to kill all the workers. Cannoli has come to the Circuit that was too far away to actually help out anyway. GG. AOT has made it into the grand final, and of course he did it off the back of a ridiculous early pool. Even Lucy couldn't believe it, our match admin. Well, AOT will claim victory at the end of the day, and there were some GGs in there, and then there was that one, which is hype in and of itself, as part of an element of a series. Now we will have to see Arbus versus Art of Turtle. Which A player is going to make it into the main stages of Acropolis? We'll find out next time. And for you guys on stream, it is next time, pretty much. So I'm going to get ready for our grand final here. I'm going to take a short break to clear my throat and get my overlay good to go and see where we go from there. But just letting you guys know that we are going for the grand final here and now. Seed number 1 versus seed number 3. And I look forward to seeing who takes it. I almost named both players Arbus Budish. That would have been pretty funny. But yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break tops, and then I will be back to do some more of the casting. BRB. Haha, I'm eating my 1 minute. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to sip this water sophisticatedly. Delicious. Okay. Let's get ready to rumble. It's not quite how the Kogri talk, but that could be a Kogri voice, sort of. Gentlemen and ladies, we are here today to crown a champion of Tribunal number 5. That means it's going to be very, very soon time to see Arbuz, or Art of Turtle, Artbooz, join the ranks of esteemed names like Neblime. Oh, and Ziki, Oya, Newt, Hit 'em Up, Crankin' Down Hamster, Aud64, who is going to make it all the way into the Tribunal stage, then the main stage we gotta see in this grand final matchup. That's right, the story so far is Arbuz Budesh versus Art of Turtle in the grand final. Arbuz has yet to drop a map, and AOT, well, he only dropped one map versus Cannoli, and it was Monazite, an island map, unlikely to show up in today's veto. Let's find out. It is now time to get into our very first match here in the grand final. So join us for that. I forgot to save the overlay file. Don't worry, this part will be cut out. Wink. Ladies and gentlemen, Corrosion is where we start things off, and Arbuz has rolled Zerg. He is in the top left. He is 6-pooling. He's also Dark Lavender. And Art of Turtle is green in the bottom right here. Going for a more standard play. Honestly, if he just goes for his 8-pool, which is something he does pretty frequently, he could be in a really nice position here to defend this, but it will depend on his follow-up. Looks like that was actually a 9-pool, which is a little bit later than is super safe, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening here. I feel like people try to 6-pool AOT and they very rarely win in tournament games. But we'll find out. This is seed number 1 versus seed number 3. Seed number 2 was dog-lived, not able to make it past the first hurdle. And so we wound up in a ZVZ semi-final, which gave AOT plenty of practice for this matchup. Arbiz, on the other hand, he played against Sir Grass Eater in the opener. And there were some ZVZ matches in that series, but for the most part, he relied on Protoss in his path to victory, rolling it 3 times in a row against Hanmano, crushing him each and every time. Now, AOT is going to be our main man, our main legend, to see if he can upset the apple cart. So far, he actually hasn't had to perform any upsets, if you think about it. He's defeated seed number 6 of Sausage 3-0 and seed number 7 of Cannoli 3-1. So he never had to go up against a higher seeded opponent until now. Arbiz is moving across the map, but he's going to be running up against some Zeths already from AOT. Arbiz ends up blinking first as more Zeths come on down for reinforcements. Arbiz will end up scampering away. And yeah, 8-pool's a really steady build in this matchup. I feel like, obviously it's 9 in this case, but pool into Larvosk, and now as we can see into double Larvosk, a very, very steady, sturdy build. Arbiz unlikely to be able to punish. So he didn't commit super hardcore into it. He's going to be fine. He's going to macro out of it. But AOT has a production lead for now, and might try to press that advantage into the early game, but one Zeth is loose into the base. Little tactical maneuver here for Arbiz's advantage. Shuts down a little bit of Vespene mining for a time. And yeah, I think with that little move right there that Arbiz did, kind of canceled out any opportunity AOT had to move across the map and affect change. Obviously, we got a pretty steady amount of units coming out from Arbiz. No worries there. Vornath starting up for AOT. Wants to go for probably just Vorvs. He does like a Vorvcore, but he also likes a Nathracore, this man. He's one of the few Nathracore advocates. Nathvacates in the Cosmonarchy scene. Patrolling back and forth with his quads will catch Arbiz's Zeth as it tries to go past. He thought about maybe storming the gates. This is kind of a bait. We got more units being... Oh, actually, we don't have any more combat units being made, so never mind what I say. But there's enough quads here to make it feel a little bit unlikely. You want to go for anything too crazy here. At least not without your Vorvs. So he ends up going up the high ground, and he'll make a couple of Vorvs. Just a couple. Honestly, if he had attacked right there, especially with them not on the high ground, that could have resulted in a lot of really nice moves. Arbiz doesn't realize it right now, but he has a pretty distinct military advantage. The Zeths around could have been pretty deadly. Or he could have just run past anyway and decided, I'm going to attack you with like 2 of my Zeths and then go after your Larvosks. With the Vorvs in tow, this might be a little bit more possible. You can see him trying to navigate something, but a bunch of Zeths pour out. So at this point, we're dwindling if we're hoping for any more damage. Maybe we can get a couple of workers here, but AOT is not likely to get away with anything else. No follow-up moving out after this. But he gets a full scout. He sees the tech. Sacrifices the last of his units to kill a single Quaz. Ski-backed for Arbiz. That's not something AOT is going to scout, but he can definitely guess. His hatch timing's a little bit slower than Arbiz's, but worker count much in favor of our green Zerg. Up by 9. Some workers already transferring down there. Is he going for the lake? He is. Okay. And the Nathrakors are going to fly on in. Maybe they can pick the Larvos, but it takes a while, actually. They should go after workers instead, but then there's the burrow. Well, they get one immediately. They were attacking larva for a second, which is hilarious. I can think of few worse targets than an egg. Okay, Arbiz's opponent here going for the Shroud. Arbiz himself, Iziracore. The ski-back should have been scouted by the Naths there, so that must be why the Shroud is coming out, to try to counter the backdols with some Zoryus. Yeah, honestly, I'm excited for this series. AOT's got a nice worker advantage, keeping good pace around the map, just kind of controlling some of the skies, and maybe he'll pick a worker here. Good micro from Arbuz. Ooh, could have gone after that guy anyway. Yeah, he's forcing some moves there. It's not comfortable yet for Arbuz. Still now actually grown to an 11 worker lead. So AOT really keeping pace with that macro. I love the idea of going for expansions here. You've scouted that your opponent is going to go for the Bactyl army. It's going to take a little bit for them to get too much done. Lyralisk's coming up. Do need to see some Zoryus soon. Making some calcs. Yeah, I mean, I don't really dislike anything that AOT is doing, and I do recognize he's not the favorite of the setup, so it kind of feels like he should be in a strong spot to take game one, and that could really lead to a cool complexion for the early stages. Three Lake is on the way, so no Zoryus. He's not going to be trying to get in the face of those Bactyls. There's an Ovaleth already coming out, so not going to be a situation like we saw in the previous series, Cannoli struggling to get one over on AOT's Lake is. We're going to see that rare matchup where Bactyls go up against Lakes and end up being pretty good. Now, the Lyralisk run-by does actually threaten some stuff. The bounces are going to be good. They're going to clear out all of the Zeths. Arbuz chooses to go for the attack, and some of these units off the rally are not even attacking those Zeths. He's got a lot of air army, but nothing to really hold it back the damage. Here comes the Lakes. Lyra's not pressuring in the natural. Oh, but Arbuz is a little bit out of sync. His army not quite in the right spot. Lake is doing a lot of damage here, and the calcs are not being run down by the Iziracors. Yeah, suddenly this just got a lot harder, actually. Lyralisks came all the way back to start heckling, and yeah, there's just no way to get out of here for the Bactyls, so not a good fight for Arbuz. He ended up losing most of his military in that. And Anathacor, of course, is going to chase down that Ovaleth. Munched. We've got some more anti-air defenses coming up here inside the natural, but not really that many defenses on the ground. And those Lakes are deadly. Macro Hatch is coming up for AOT. He's been mining gas from that little satellite base at the 3 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and clear the 9 to make sure nothing is over there. But yeah, this is dangerous. AOT has an Olgord Cavern on the way. He is making some Zoryus now. A Khaz'trith as well. He's playing it a little bit defensively. I don't think he realizes how much further ahead he is. And he is going to go ahead and take another base as well. So that's very exciting. Zeth Lyra coming up just to see what's going on. Sees Zeth Hydrobactyl, not bad. Just going to confirm nothing at 12. See what else is coming down the pike. Okay, he's going to garrison that gas in the sort of lower left. I guess we'd call it 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock. It's not quite 3 and 9. A single calc. Just going to see what it can do. Spoiler is not much, but yeah, not quite able to escape there. I don't mind the idea of like forcing some kind of reaction from the Droleth, but if you only have one calc, you're not going to be able to get too much done there. Huge amount of lake is being made. AOT just wants to kind of run him over, but he does have the Olgorg, so he could have made turned some of that gas into Ultra Cores, and yeah, he actually cancels out some of those Lakes he made. But remember, he's got a lot of extra Vespene courtesy of these reservoirs. This is something that Arbuz has not really been controlling very well. You got to give credit where credit is due. AOT has been playing to a very high level. He's grinded it up. That's why he's seed number 3 in this tournament to begin with. You might be accustomed to seeing him lower seeded if you've seen him in other matches. Zeth's coming in to see this positioning on the Teths. I have a feeling AOT knows what that means. You can see him just deciding to commit with this army. And the Iziracors are trying to do what they can. No anti-surface defenses over here. There are some quas. Yeah, the Lyras aren't going to be able to accomplish as much as maybe AOT would have wanted them to. But this is definitely still a bit of a delay. And he's getting rid of the quads, which are a little bit of a defensive move versus drops or something. They're going to be re-garrisoned if Arbiz is crossing his T's and dotting his I's, but he's got a pretty solid force inside the natural. Looks like another base earmarked here for AOT, unless he just wants to... Yep, that is going to be base number 4 for him. Very good. Very good indeed. Already has some harvesting, specifically the Vespene, really important for Zerg at this stage of the game. So, great gas lead, great worker lead, taking that 4th base faster. Obviously has all the gas coming from the reservoirs. If AOT doesn't win this game, it's going to bode pretty poorly for him across the series, in my opinion. But he doesn't look poised to drop it, that's for sure. More Bactyls coming in. I think the Ultra Cores can clear the deck of everything, and the Lakers are just waiting to make matters worse for him. Look at that! He goes for tier 2. There were some quads that just came out of here. I think when you see the Ultra Core, you're going to be a little bit scared. Arbuz's, that is. Gets the kill. Oh my god. Kill it! Kill it, AOT! Oh, there you go. He's figured it out. Hyrule Iris is complete. 20 Droleth. He wants to saturate that extra base. Going for the Matravel Nest. Okay. Most likely we're going to see some Vilgoricores. With that Carapace Swarm going. It does feel like he could have won already, to be honest. So, I'm not going to say anything more than that, but he's got a pretty fearsome looking army. I guess it's questionable from the defensive POV. More Bactyls being made. Yeah, if you have Vilgoricores versus Bactyls, it's so hard for them to do much damage. They bounce onto all the Vilgs, and so they end up releasing their stacking clouds pretty much at the same time. Not normally something that can happen. And then when the Vilgs do die, they end up spawning Rillarocores. Just like the Zor used to, but in a different mechanism. Add that to the Ultra Core presence, and it's pretty hard. Pretty hard to do much versus that kind of composition. There's grand total of 0 armor end on the side of Arbiz. Gotta rely on the Hydra. Alright, the attack is going to come in. All from the same angle right about now, unless AOT changes his mind. Oxel Seasient on the way. So he is going to be going for those more advanced mutations pretty quickly here, now that he's got tier 2. Disgusting looking Zerg army ready to go. You can see him trying to maybe pincer attack the natural. Kind of maybe considering migration elsewhere. But look at this. The lake is ready to burrow whenever they want to. There's the burrow. Now a bunch of them are going to go wild, and all the Bactyls getting chewed up down here. The Ultra Cores just laying into them. The Tetsu's trying to stay alive as well, but oh, the Convolus for the move of choice. Yeah, that is just a wipe. I mean, the tier 2 army definitely helping out, but the lake is just shredding so much, and so many of the frontline units for Arbiz were all the way back here inside the 3rd base, not able to get to the front lines. The Ultra Core is eating everything, breaking through on all fronts. We got Zorius wandering in from the south. It was all leading up to this one moment, and now 4K minerals in the bank. I think Arbiz is going to go ahead and think about what he's going to do next, you know. He's going to have to call it, I think, right then and there. In fact, we might have a slightly out-of-sync replay, actually, judging by the resources. 4K does seem like a lot. Still, it does feel like it was pretty consistent there. GG is indeed going to be called as the 3rd base falls, so we didn't miss much. Maybe a few extra units from Arbiz or something like that, but that is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to game 2 of our grand final with the underdog up 1-0. I look forward to when we quash all those replay issues and stuff, because it just means that the players were, if they are at floating 4K minerals or whatever, then I can really lay into them. You know, I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry too much. All right, I think we are ready to go. It is game 2 between Art of Turtle and Arbuz Budesh, who has spawned in as our Magma Protoss this time around. And we're on Monazite, guys. We're back on our island map. Very exciting stuff. Green Zerg of AOT in the top left. So, AOT won, you know, I think he won a game on Monazite way back. I don't remember when. It might have been in the quarterfinals, or it might have been in another tribunal, as this map was in that as well. But can only did get the better of him, ZVZ. I have no idea how he's going to approach the ZVP by comparison. It is going to be a lattice opener for Arbuz. Sausage did this, I think. That's what I'm remembering, is AOT winning versus Sausage. I don't think Arbuz is going to play quite the same style. There's a lot of drops, a lot of aggression. I think that's just players trying to figure the map out. And maybe they're a little uncomfy, so they want to spend as little time as possible on it. That's a possibility as well. Definitely something to keep in mind as we get into this is, like, I don't know. I think AOT's probably played this more than Arbuz has, to be honest with you. Either way, the pool is coming up. We're going to end up seeing some interesting action here momentarily. Just based on the fact that it's double lattice, I think we will end up seeing the vassals. Sausage did the same kind of opening with a lot of vassals, and it wasn't that effective. But actually, we have a sim start. Okay, he cancels it. I was going to say, what is he doing that? Is he banking sims? Just going to unload them all, like, one by one out of an envoy. There's the embassy. Getting those transports is definitely something that's important on an island map. Just in case you're first time watching a grand final and you have never seen this map before. So in, well, let's just say that everything besides the main bases is connected. So the mains are the only islands on Monazite. Most people are taking this as their natural, the little back base over here. It is pretty far from the rest of the map. Meanwhile, we do have that second Larvas coming up for AOT. And he's just patrolling around with his quads. He's probably going to expect the vassal opener. It does make the most sense to do. I wouldn't mind an embassy opener, personally. I don't think that there's much that you can really go aggro on super fast. If you go embassy and then gateway, you could do like a zealot bomb early on. And I think that would be pretty effective versus a lot of these greedy openers that the Zergs are doing. But we'll let the meta decide that a little bit later on. We've got one more tribunal to go through with this map pool, and that's after that is when I decide, are we keeping Monazite in? Are we keeping an island map in? And I'm going to be honest, I've seen some cool games on it, so I can't tell you the answer is no. Can't tell you the answer is yes either. I haven't answered the question yet, but I will at some point. Expansion prep here for Arbuz. He ends up going for a rogue gallery behind it. Clearly he wants to go for Barghest. Vassal Barghest is my guess based on that. The quads drop is going to go all the way around. I feel like this is a little bit less effective. I mean, unless you like waypoint it here or something, then maybe it's fine. But trying to drop down here, I mean, quads are not going to kill the Nexus. It was 6 deaths. I would say maybe that's a little bit more questionable. You know, if the idols would need to be dropped down, then you got the vassals there as well. Witness coming up, and the vassal guarding the expansion means that AOT is going to have to do something about that. He's going to scoop a Droleth. Oh, actually, the vassal ends up being pulled. It was on the same control group as these guys, so it doesn't quite work out that way. He ends up dropping those, and oh, Crosington just subscribed on YouTube. Thanks, dude. That's a very faint audio file. Oh, goes after the envoy, ignores the idols entirely, and well, actually, this could be pretty good. The Omelette is blocking the shots. That is brilliant. Now, AOT's kind of let his foot off the gas, but he does pick up one of the idols. Dude, I never thought in a million years that would happen. That's so cool. 4 Nats on the way. It was spotted by the witness, but I'm not sure Arbus actually clocked the movement. The idol all the way down to half health. Well, here are the vassals. You can see him trying to distract those units a little bit. And once the Nats arrive, I think they're far enough away from the vassal. Yeah, the vassal's grounded. Oh, the idol, rather, is grounded on the low ground, but obviously there's more where that came from. Yeah, vassals lose really hard to Nats in similar numbers. I suppose there's probably like a break point where you hit like 200 vassals or something absurd, and then they can deal with it, but... Witness spotted by the Avaleth. We'll see if that ends up doing anything. Scoops up a bunch of Droloth. He just wants to drop them down here to have better saturation. And we did see the beginnings of the Barghest Vassal play. So Barghests give Armor Pen while decloaked to nearby allies, and Vassals themselves don't have any Armor Pen. But 6 damage, once you have enough Armor Pen, is pretty damn good. So, I'm just saying, it's going to be pretty effective. Nathacors are on the way. They'll clear out the Witness pretty easily. The Expo timing definitely favoring our Zerg player here, despite the fact that the Nexus went down sooner. The Scribes are only now being transferred over. The Envoy was in need of being rebuilt, obviously. Spraith being added. Love to see a Circuit, obviously, because of the potential for drops. But we don't end up having that happen here right now. 3 idols leaving the building. Dude, you can fit 1 extra unit in there. You can fit a Sim. Down goes the Witness. Double Spraith spotted. So, yeah, the Vassal Barghest will be held at an arm's length by all of the Quas and all of the Spraiths. The idols are going to be the main force here that Arbus is going to be relying on. Kind of maybe see if he can pop in here. Unloads the idols in the main base. This is a pretty dangerous situation. Nats are not being scrambled for the fight just yet. The Avaleth is going to be here to try to absorb the idols. You saw how powerful that one shot was. Almost took out more than half of what that Avaleth had for health. Now trying to chase him down with the Nats. It's a little dangerous because I think the Barghests are easy pickings for the Nats once they actually get fighting, but they weren't quite on the right target selection there. They do end up picking off 2 of the Barghests. AOT going to have to reinvest into some more Nathracors, and he is going for base number 3 at 12 o'clock. Dude, this is cool. I like this. Kabbalist on the way. Going to get some drops going. I mean, as the actual, ground-connected parts of the map, the land portion of the map, Argosy Rush, holy shit. Listen, as this stuff gets used more often, stuff like Kabbalists are going to be more useful. Stuff on the ground going to be more useful. And it's weird that the Argosy is over here in the main base. I guess it's to try to be a little bit more hidden and out of the way. But if it was ground production, I'd say definitely start building more of that on the low ground. That's what you want to see. In fact, I would love to see that Larvosk down here. Perfect. Perfect. Extra Larvosks down here on the low ground. Exactly what AOT needs. He needs to be on the low ground so that his army can affect change on the map. And reinforce his outer lying positions. The more of this connected area that you end up getting, the more significant it ends up being. So, Kabbalist is leaving the building. I guess he probably A-moved, but he could set up a little daisy chain where he builds like a pylon like here, and the Kabbalist just jumps to it to gap close out. Pretty unlikely to ever see something like that happen, but I can dream, Kind of announcing the Kabbalist a little bit preemptively there. There is no detection over here, though. Oh, AOT. Probably at least 4 kills in the cards here. Yeah, jumps to another one pretty far away. So the Kabbalist, when it's cloaked, jumps and deals extra damage. So that's where it's one-shotting the workers. Otherwise, it will not one-shot them if it's just decloaked there. And he finally does end up going down. But still, that's a lot of worker kills. 6 or 7. Yeah, that's right. I said 6 or 7. Fucker. Base number 3 coming up for Arbus is Empyrean is about to arrive. Pretty bold choice there. But there's a lot of Hydras out. And the ground army is mostly away, like can't really reinforce. So this Nexus is going to be under some danger, some threat. Oh, and the Ovoleths can intercept the Empyrean shots too. I should mention that. Yeah, that Nexus is just dead. You can't really do much about that. Didn't quite have the standing force here to do much. So, great play from AOT to end up taking that. Base number 4 coming up in the top right for him as he shuts down base number 3 for his opponent. Despite the tech that Arbuz has access to with this Empyrean and the Argosy that made it. I have to say, I really like the Zerg position right now. The Sovoleth was left behind just to scout out what's going on. I'm assuming he spotted the Argosy and all of that. Tethvith Swamp on the way. He wants the Vithrilisks. Right? That's what he's getting, right, guys? Hydra's safeguarding a little bit lower than the top right, in case any units end up going in that direction. Safeguarding this third base is the Empyrean and a whole bunch of the ground forces. He's just going to be stacking up the Empyreans for now. Typically, Zergs have countered this kind of thing by going for Zarkaver cores, but I think they're a little bit worse for wear now because of the changes to the Bone of Reflection, which the Tetzora core also has. That lost armor pen, so it won't be dealing nearly as much damage without some inventive uses of things like Naths and Viths. Another big Hydra drop coming out. Obviously, one thing that you would love to see here is a Nidus, but we are a ways off from AOT affording tier 2. Played that first game pretty well. He's playing this match very, very nicely. Solarian on the way for Arbuz. He wants to have access to something even sturdier than an Empyrean in case of emergency. Some Vithrilisks are already on the way. And the Hydras are going to be roving around, confirming no fourth base for the Protoss. He's got plenty of static defense over here. I don't think he can realistically do much damage to this. So, honestly, if I'm AOT, I'm thinking, it's been a while since I've been on the map. I'm just going to sit here and camp the fourth. And, pull back if I need to. I got my other guys patrolling all over the place. Another witness earmarked for within range of the Ovoleth detector, so that's going to die pretty quickly. Or can really provide much intel. Maybe he sees that many Hydras there and he thinks to himself, okay, he's probably not out on the map. Base number 5 being taken by Art of Turtle. Now, Arbuz is playing a little bit of a quintessential Protoss style, where he is going for a lot of tech. Speaking of tech, Iral Iris on the way for our Zerg. He's going for a lot of tech, and it will be some time before the tech is revealed and the level of strength that the Protoss army actually has is revealed. I think we only have like the one Barghest that survived earlier. I don't see it. Yeah, here it is. But with that Iral Iris completing, will we end up seeing any Nidus? A Goswelleth is being made. You can make the Nidus directly from the Goswelleth if you want to. Sim has arrived, but it's kind of dangerous to attack it that way, to be honest. 3 Kabbalists moving up towards the top right, it looks like. No, they're going to change their plans. And there is an Ovoleth with this army. Ooh, hold on. He's scrambling over. This is a really, really nice play from the Zerg. Obviously, it's going to be some damage here for Arbuz, but the Ovoleth already being with the army, just like aware of these sorts of shenanigans and tricks. I think that's very, very nice there. And that should be worrying for the Protoss, too. Arbuz should be thinking to himself, damn, this guy's already taken that base. That's pretty far forward. Doesn't even know about base number 4 up here in the top right. Admittedly, there's no gas caps yet. Oh, but the Kabbalists come back in, and almost all of them getting evaporated immediately. Down goes the cloned Sim. Another one being caught here in the high ground. Air Army floating over. Dude, AOT's playing so well right now. Tosvril Haunt on the way, courtesy of the Goswelleth. We're going to get some Oxylcesians out. Is it going to be Sovs? Tosgrilisks? I think Tosgrilisks would be a great choice, personally. Look at this. He's going to go for the Bactals on the high ground. Dirty, dirty stuff. Now, he doesn't have a second worker on this geyser. And remember what I said about gas caps. He has some in the main base, so there is that. Ridge cap in the natural. It's pretty below what you would expect, though. Vassals are on the way. We have anti-air defenses already up. The Skith-Vith Calc combo is actually pretty good in this situation, where you're going to see that Screecore passive that was implemented to the Vith a while ago. They incubate and spawn the Screecores here. Only deal 60 damage, not the ridiculous number that people are used to from StarCraft 1. These Hydras and Bactyls are not a nothing investment, and so it looks like they will end up being routed by the Protoss. That Envoy didn't have anything in it, but, you know, this is actually a little bit sloppy from Arbiz. He didn't need to lose things like the Barghest providing him armor pen, all those vassals that provide a speed boost in other fights. Oh, if he's not careful, he'll lose the Epigraph, too. Indeed, it will go down. That was a pretty powerful enchanting unit, you know? Kafralosk on the way. We're going to get more Viths out pretty quickly here. In fact, are they even coming? Yeah, they're coming out of the Oxel Cesians now as well. Really nice play from the Zerg. Now, this Iziracore run-by is destined to die. Hopefully, it can get some workers. That's what AOT is looking for. I'm going to see if he can try to pick some of these guys off here in the natural. I don't think he's going to get too many worker kills. The Matrix is going to restore shields as well, yeah. Looks like not a single worker goes down. But that, despite it being so expensive, I mean, we've got Sovrolets coming. We've got a 4,000 mineral bank. AOT can kind of afford to do that if he wants to. Could take a 6th base even. We've got loads of money, so that's not a question. Actually, what is a question is, does he have the production that he needs? 14 Sovrolets are out already. 3 more pairs on the way. A lot of floated larvae here, despite the mineral bank. Probably because like he doesn't have the land-born hatches on a different control group or something, you know? Kabbalah spotted by the Avaleth. Eight Empyreans, 3 Solarians, nothing to sniff at. The splash damage from the Empyreans can destroy Sovrolets and have done so in the past. As well as trying to come in here. It's pretty wounded, so unlikely to get too much value. Yeah, indeed, it will end up going down. All those Hydras got cleared on the right side. That's going to indicate to AOT where the air stack is. And he just is thinking about right-clicking the Teth somewhere else. They would do great on that isolated base in the bottom left. I love these Ardent Authorities. Making Servitors at 6 o'clock. Is Monazite a cool map or what, dude? I was already leaning towards like, hey, you know, it'd be a pretty good map to include. Just to have an island map. But people are figuring out this is a cool game. Building that production on the low ground. We are getting some more Teths here. Scribe scouting out. We'll end up seeing stuff. Trying to build on the high ground there. Air stack floating over. The Sovrolets are here. We're going to have Viths to render armor. Irolets are out. They don't actually have anything in them right now, but it's a cool idea. A couple of these units getting caught. All the pylons here just to buy some time so that the Teths don't just saunter on in and wipe all the workers. Now, with the air stack being revealed over there, the Sovrolets are slowly moving their way over elsewhere. And look, there's like a Solarian and a couple of other units over here. The Viths are going to pounce on this opportunity. AOT is going to clear the skies in this area. They belong to him. Base number 5 being attempted over here in the same position as AOT's base number 5, but that's going to get canceled. A lot of Servitors. Those are pretty legit units as a little stat stick. No cancel. Some Zorius are out. I like the idea of the Zorius, but this feels like the Sovs are a little too far away. They are going to basically turn into artillery at this count. We do have 31 of them. But look, the Servitors are trying to get right in the middle, right in the front line. Is it going to be enough? They're not flying over to make any more. The Viths trying to buy enough time, spreading their debuff all over that air stack in the back. But so many of them are still alive. And remember what I said about the Empyreans? The Irolets are here to like absorb the Empyrean shots, which is a really brilliant move, honestly, from AOT. But he does not have the micro in the middle of the fight to keep them going. And so those Empyreans will end up reigning supreme. And we still have, as 9 Empyreans stand, hover, whatever you want to call it, 13 Servitors and more coming out every moment. Crucible empowering 4 Ardents. And we're going to have some more static defense set up in the bottom left. More Teths moving in that direction with some Bactyl support. We got Ultra Cores coming. We got Schizocores coming. We have no Nidus to get these units out of the ground. missed opportunity for sure as he tries to focus down the Nexus with nothing but Zoryus. I don't know that that's quite going to work out. That Zoracore is going to munch on all of the pylons. And yeah, base will endure indeed. Ah, the 10th Zoracore drop. Well, it's going to go right into the Empyrean fleet, so... Oh, now we're going to start to see those Teths munch on the workers. This could set Arbiz back a little bit, but he's got such a worker lead that it might not matter that much. Yeah, AOT kind of fell apart on the map control part. He never took extra bases, didn't really cap too many of the geysers, just the ridges, and never even saturated this geyser to begin with. The Kabbalist killed his second worker a long time ago. Bactals are doing a lot of bounce damage to the worker count over here, bringing it more within range of AOTs. Now he is within touching distance of it, but... yeah, with that 5th base being set up, I feel the momentum swinging. A monument of sin has been constructed. Where else but the main base, I would think. Yet instead, it seems like it is being warped in down here with a Crucible in the bottom left. I don't know that that was spotted by AOT. He technically did scout it, but that is about it, my friends. Ultra Cores. Munching. Trying to go after the Nexus, but it's barely damaged, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get much done here. Oh, they actually do kill it. Okay. Put some respect on the Ultra Core after all. 5 Tozgralisks, 12 Zoryus trying to spend down that bank. Still no extra base. The worker count has continued to rise as well. And Thelion on the way here in the bottom left. That's the unit of choice for Arbuz. Biddy in the chat saying we should take a tournament. All Class 1 maps get turned into island maps. I kind of like that idea, to be honest. You can tell that it's in the awkward evolution phase right now, as far as the metagame is concerned, where players don't really know what to make of it. We still don't have the Nidus and the rallies set up properly, and that's definitely a problem for AOT. Well, there's theory here that's being thought of and explored, and Crucible Empowered Ardents down here, and that's cool. That's cool. Now, the Monument of Sin is waypointed over here inside friendly territory. 14 Sovs and the Tozgralisks are going to attempt to make magic happen. Viths, Bactals. Yeah, honestly, this army, if it engages properly, this army could do a lot of damage. But I think the biggest problem is that the Empyrean stack has continued to rise, and we don't have any Zarks or any like dedicated anti-air splash damage. Engram is going to slow this down, and it will end up falling after all. The Viths are just getting kind of chewed up. The ground army engaging, trying to hold up the Empyreans in the process. Some stasis going live. Well, the main base is actually under some serious duress here. Didac might get focused down. It will. Look at that. Gets the stasis off just in the nick of time, but that's a good pick nonetheless. It feels like AOT does not have the largest army, but apparently he's got the same army size as his opponent. Just a little bit surprising. More Tozgralisks have been made. He has taken a 6th base, but nobody working there yet. A lot of Gozoliths were made. I don't know. The Anthelians are being stacked up in the bottom left. He's going for a 3rd one. It doesn't feel like AOT's been able to develop any further. Has he done anything to his gas yields since we last looked at this place? No, he has not. Well, I tell a lie. He did end up making this gas cap here in the 5th base. But still only 1 gas miner over here is painful. He's starting to do that over here in the other bases. You can tell that he's realized maybe that was a mistake to wait so very long for those gas caps. I mean, it is what it is, guys. This is Cosmonarchy is a hard game. Cosmonarchy is a hard game, so we'll keep that in mind. AOT spending a lot of energy in this game, by the way, and if it ends up that he's just slowly choked out by the Protoss Sky Toss Death Ball here, that'll be a little bit disappointing for him, I'm sure. You can see that the Tozgalisks are trying to get some damage done, but they're barely affecting the Empyreans in the back, and the Anthelians arrive to suck those Ultra Cores back into frame. You going nowhere, boy! GG, says AOT. And that is a wrap on Game 2. What a glorious 25-minute bonanza on Monazite. We'll see you for Game 3. That was a legit game. I enjoyed that very deeply. And we're tied up. Exactly what you would want out of the grand final. I thought for a second Arbus was going to go down 0-2 and have to reverse sweep if he wanted to save face, but he ends up doing just fine. I do like your idea, Biddy B. We should have an island fest. I also think we should try like 2v2 maps where one player is on an island on each team. I think that would be good. I think there's potential there. Well, we could do it on Faction Wars. We could. What's up, Nibline? Hope you're doing well. Monazite turns into a normal map is a very funny idea. Ladies and gentlemen, tied up we are going into Game 3. Art of Turtle, after a grueling loss on Monazite, is going to be going up against Arbuz Budesh's Zerg once more. This is the vivid red Zerg of Arbuz Budesh. We saw it there for a moment. And he's once again going to be 6-pooling. Hilarious. AOT is the green Zerg in the bottom left. And will likely go for his 8 or 9 pool, depending on how he feels and how optimized it is. The earlier gas timing makes me think it's going to be a 9 pool. He's going to queue up one more worker before he ends up going for it. So, this one could be over quick. This one could end up seeing Arbuz take the lead in the series. But, with that pool going down, and, you know, this is a fairly robust build order. We saw this on Corrosion. AOT was able to get up to some pretty good moves there. I think that's just fine. Now, worth noting, once upon a time, there were these neutral gas situations over here. However, that has not been the case for some time now on Magnetron, Port of Tokamak, done by myself. We have Biddy B and then Cannoli and then me as far as the map authors so far. And this map also has no neutral town centers. So it's unlike Corrosion in that respect, where you can get returns from some gas nodes on the map. That's something that AOT used to his great advantage in Game 1 to start things off. The 6 Zeths are coming back, so this is it's really interesting that Arbuz is going for 2 6 pools back-to-back as far as his Zerg games are concerned. Game 1 and Game 3. AOT going to be making plenty of his own Zeths. I think he's going to be fine. it does feel like this isn't... It's not quite a dead opening, but I'm just not really sure what Arbiz is hoping to accomplish. Maybe he can convince me. As the Zeths are leaving, he can maybe just go right out. Oh my god! AOT is just not at all cared about this. Well, he's going to start swinging back now. I'd be like, damn, respect if he just like moved across the map and decided he would hold with his own reinforcements, but just missed that. Just missed that. Now, there were quads here, so, you know, that would have been something anyway, but... Burrowing to get that regen up. Burrows on both sides, actually. Well, let's see. A lot more Zeths hatching for AOT. No gas will be disrupted here for either Zerg player, it would seem. I would love the idea of just sending a bunch of Zeths out here and then going across the map to attack, because Arbiz doesn't have a lot of defenses, and he has been allowed to be a little bit greedy to catch up with the econ of his opponent. 2 Zeths are all that are going to slip the net initially. And with the Quaz coming down, Arbiz looks away for just a moment and ends up losing most of his Zeths. So it feels like any early aggression from our Vivid Red Zerg is over. Fast Vornath for AOT. Nath, of course, to try to shut down the mineral line are a possibility, but I think it's more likely we end up just seeing some Vorvs and a third Larvosk from our green Zerg. Worth noting, he has won the ZVZ so far and only dropped to the ZVP. Handed Arbiz his first map loss so far in the tournament. So I think that's worth giving him a little pat on the back for and say, attaboy. But is that all he's got it for us? 3 pairs of Nats are indeed on the way, as well as 3 Vorvs. So the magic number... Beaver says that when he does his blackjack unit response. I never did explain what that meant, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out now. Shroud fairly early for our Vivid Red favorite. Hydrith Den for the underdog. Wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going for some Izira cores. A little bit of a ships in the night moment here. Oh dear. Yeah, that's really dire. He just barely catches him at the corner of his quasi. And, well, the Nats are here as well. So this is going to be a little bit of a problem if those quads end up going down on Arbiz's side. He's going to have no anti-air. And you can see this ground army is sort of like torn as to whether or not to attack the air units or attack the other ground units. And so a lot of Nats do end up going down, but keeping 5 alive is going to be pretty legit. Now, he needs to do something about the fact that Nats are incoming. He's going to go ahead and make 4 pairs of Quas, 6 pairs of Zeths, and we do have some more on the way. With the Shroud complete, we can go for the all-important Lakizalisk, but expanding behind this attack is AOT, and his Hydra then just popped behind it as well. So he's only got 1 Zeth to worry about on the map, not really the end of the world. 8 Quas, 16 Zeth, that's going to be pretty good here, but AOT thinks he can still take the fight anyway. I don't know if he was quite correct. Yeah, that's going to be a pretty big routing. Still has 4 Nats. Maybe he can do some heckling and shut down the mining. That's sort of what I was expecting him to do in the middle of that anyway. And he spots the Lake is hatching as well as the Shroud Scout as well. So that's pretty legit. Zeth comes in here and confirms an expansion. AOT can deal with that pretty easily. I don't think anybody's in any trouble right now, but AOT does have the worker lead by 6, and he has the expansion timing much, much faster than his opponent. Distance mining the gas, going for the Calcure Lake. AOT wants those Calcalisks again. He kept 2 Nathacores alive, which is pretty important, but they're watching for this egress from Arbiz. They are going to need to cycle away, I think. I love that they're being very active on the map. By the way, the Tensender, limited utility in this matchup, because what are you going to throw Zeths in there? But I don't know. It's kind of neat. You can garrison neutral structures like that. Sort of Command and Conquer-ish, I guess. I didn't really think about that when I was implementing the rule, but... Zerg Shambler! Random chance to get Shambler as your Droleth name, and then it carries over to whatever structure it makes. Isn't that fun? Now, with the Zeths being routed over here, AOT is going to need to defend. He's got Izira cores. I think he'll be just fine, as predicted before. Vornath Pond on the way for Arbiz, about to pop inside his base. He still wants to stick around and see if he can do any fighting here. The Calculusks get morphed right in front of Arbuz's very eyes, and the Zeth run-by is going to be huge. Workers already evacuating towards the natural to try to stay alive. Doesn't look like too many of them have gone down yet. The hatch is the next target. No, we change over to those Larvosks, and that's going to be a absolutely cataclysmic amount of gas lost, as well as the larva production. Meanwhile, the ground army is eaten up by the Quas. Great moves from Arbuz, who stands right underneath the Calcs and kills them as they hatch. The Aziricors now have to scramble back as the workers evacuate the mineral line of the natural, and it's been a shutdown from Arbuz. If he had been able to wall that off with his Aziricors, he would have been in such a better spot, but AOT, as it currently stands, needs to win with his counterattack or die trying. Ulgorg on the way for Arbuz. Even though his army over here is not going to return home, he's got so many Quas, and his one Lakes will move to the front line. There is not a single bit of detection for our green Zerg player, and he's falling back to try to rebuild. He does have a worker parity with his opponent, but I'm just not convinced that's going to be quite sufficient in the long run of this game. That feels like a humongous setback. Can he do something about the Ultra Cores that are unlikely to die in any future fight, but indubitably the goal of Arbuz? The world is watching. Larvosk on the way. Try to build back better a little bit here for AOT, but it's a struggle, man. It's a struggle. Arbuz still not taking the worker advantage. Investing a bit more into his military. You can see the disparity there. 20 military units to the better. Though many of those are going to be pool units, of course. Some of them are Lakes. It's worth pointing out. Okay. Is this going to be a mineral only? No, he's going all the way to the bottom right. Going for a gas base. So that's a little factor of this map, is that you have mineral only bases, 2 of them, as your likely thirds. We back, says Arbuz. Maybe there was like lag or something. Oh yeah, I don't think there was there was no admin inside the lobbies for this, so that's worth pointing out as well. These two homies are handling logistics all themselves, which sometimes is better for the network performance, depending on conflicts and stuff. Okay, a pair of Ovoleths are on the way for AOT. Does feel like with the Calculusks coming, the 14 pairs of Zeths coming, AOT is trying to set up for a pretty big set of units to maybe surround what his opponent is up to. So far, Arbuz has not spotted this base, by the way. It's kind of a cute little move there. Clearing out the Zeths. Gonna take a mineral only, Arbuz is. He's gonna have so many Ultra Cores. I don't know how AOT is meant to kill those. He has no Vorvs with him right now. Calculusks will just tickle him. Lyrilisks will do okay, but he doesn't have a large number. There's only so many times you can stutter step backwards until you're inside your own base anyway, so I'm not entirely sure that's a great move. Zozark. Okay, so we are going to see some of the most powerful units that Zerg can field this early into the game. Transcender is going to be the... Okay, he unloads it. I was going to say, well, I don't know what's going on there exactly. But he ends up putting it in a burning radius. And the Ultra Cores show themselves. I mean, if AOT can kind of cycle around and just kind of do run-bys, maybe he can do a thing here. But he absolutely is going to end up losing this fight pretty handily. The Aziricors going to be shellacking a lot of those Zeths at the very least. So he's having some cost efficiency, and Ultra Cores are just consuming all the corpses. But what does he have for any sort of armor end? The answer is not much right now. His Shroud is finishing. Skiback is finishing. He's got Calcs. He's got Lyras, but I just feel like he needs more. He's going to camp out at the third base and see what he can do for damage there. Has his own extra bit of Vespene mining, is taking bottom right as well. If he holds, he is going to be in a better position than we maybe initially think. But even though he's making all these Lakes, it's so far before they finish, and we're going to have some fly-in units out for Arbiz. He's going to go for the Zarkavra core here. A little bit of heckling at that third definitely slows his development down. And Zets and Izira cores are indeed... It looks like he ended up falling back initially, just to see what else he could come up with here. And it does look like maybe... he could have maybe linked up with that Ovaleth and tried to go for a drop. It's going to be a mind game at the very least. Not much of one, unfortunately. Ultra cores and Izira cores definitely having a good time right now. Just running around, seeing what's going on. They're trying to find some grass to graze on, maybe. Obviously, they graze on Kagra, if anything, but that's all right. If they go all the way down to the bottom right, they'll find both. The Zarks are coming. Oh, dear. Feels really dangerous, to be honest. I'm not convinced that there's any reaction AOT can take here. Maybe like very small numbers of Naths to rend the armor. Oh, this little run by is going to be efficient. Couple extra dead workers, you know. There's an attempted burrow, but they are right on top of it, and not all the workers get it anyway. So there you go. All but one worker going down. He is trying to escape with these. I guess he'll get 3 of them out, but I felt a little bit silly. And then he sees the rest of the army. I guess that was worth it, just to see the positioning on that. Double gas base being taken out here. Call it inner 12 for Arbiz. Still thinks that there are no extra bases for AOT. AOT's being tricky. But he's really behind it. He's under a huge deficit in the tech department. Trying to make his own Ultra Cores now. He's got Teths on the way as well. Okay, that's not terrible. But what do you do about these guys? No anti-air defenses whatsoever, by the way. It's worth pointing out that the Calcs can definitely outrun them, but it feels like you need something else. Oh, he's having a hard time hitting the button right, spamming it. Does it make you cancel sometimes? One point of contention here, Arbiz is flying in with these to show his hand, but he's not attacking. He's not ready to attack anywhere else. Wow, I guess he's really taking a while to deal with that. Zarks are pretty powerful, so you do have to watch out for this. Yeah, you need to keep the Calculusks free of the army. Yeah, and look, you see the army moving now, but Arbiz is definitely... not doing a multi-pronged attack here, not really pressuring the right kind of things. Doesn't kill any structures. They call for a P. Just had to, use the P. And yeah, Arbiz is going to have to go ahead and cancel that attack. Looks like he ended up losing an Ultra Core in the process. It's really dangerous for him to fly in there with the Zarks to tip his hand and then not do anything. He definitely feels like he's way further ahead than he really is. He has no idea all of these extra bases that AOT has made. A couple Lakes were made over here as well, and they're burrowing. Love to see him clear out the mineral-only bases and start taking those. Now, to be fair to Arbiz, he's not that far behind on the base count. And the double gas base obviously evens the odds a little bit. All right, there it is for AOT. He's going for his own Zozark, which is good. That is kind of what he needed. So, not the largest number of Ultra Cores you've ever seen for Arbiz's army. Calcs are coming in. Those Ovalets just kind of fly directly into them. No real value gained there. Calcs are trying to stay alive. They need to get out of dodge because all that splash damage is coming down on them. The Ultra Cores on both sides still sticking around, staying alive. We got lots of Tetsura Cores crunching onto the army as well in the ground. is going the way of AOT. All of a sudden, how has he pulled that off? The Zarkaver cores are doing so much damage, but it's being life stolen back by the Ultra cores. A horde of Quads tries to arrive to help out where they can. And now finally those Calculusks will be eviscerated. Still, the ground game seems like it's in favor of AOT. I guess the Tetzorcors might be able to kill the Zarks. One of them at the very least, right? One more? No, not quite. Yeah, there he goes. The wounded ones at the very least, right? Reinforcements coming on in, but the Ultra Cores, I think, are going to get routed here. They are life-stealing pretty well, but I mean, they're just surrounded on all sides. Their armor's being rended. Eating up as many corpses as they can, but I don't know that it's helping out too much. Big army coming in for 12 o'clock. I can't quite wrap... I guess I could wrap around once he notices. He's now sending his tankier units to try to maybe... Oh, I don't like that he's pulling the army into that new spot. Also going for an Iral Iris now. The Zet's descending onto this double gas base. We got more units coming in. Maybe see if they can pivot across and go straight into that third base, the mineral only of Arbuz. Yeah, losing some workers here. Finally, the Ultra Core will die, but that's a sacrifice that AOT was willing to make. Killing pretty much all the workers in this base. Very good. Oh, that base never got saturated. That's kind of huge. Tier 2 coming for Arbuz. Doesn't take long to make. But the Matraval Nest is already en route. Oh my god. Look at this! I selected this but didn't comment on it, but AOT is not mining minerals in the main base. If he ends up... And he is mineral gated right now, look! I think he might need to, change that. Just saying, he's very undersaturated in the natural. I know his main is kind of depleted, but still some value to be gained there. Is he going to notice? Not yet. And a Muteth Spire on the way for Arbuz. They're making a game out of this. We're going to 20 minutes on this tokamak port called Magnetron. After a 25-minute Monazite game, island map galore. Maybe the Ultra Core rush wasn't all it was cracked up to be. I do think Arbuz made a tactical error by not moving in with the rest of his moves. You know, like he did not move in with his ground army as the Zarks went into the main base. That probably would have been the killing blow. Got a lot of Convolusks starting to add up here. Spire is done. Mutas. Finally, we get to see Mutas in ZVZ. A lot of Lyra's burrowed, though. And he's burrowed the Zobrs. So when the Zobrilisks are burrowed, they actually attack air units instead of ground units. Which is probably why he's got those taken care of in that way. The Lyralisks will be a little bit better versus the Mutas, which hatch in pairs. So when you saw 13 or 11 or whatever it was, it's actually double that. I'll get a count on them in just a moment, yeah. So yeah, it was 13 pairs were made. 3 more on the way. A lot of Zorius, a lot of Hydras. Economy is definitely doing fine here, although Arbuz is a little bit gas-gated. Does he have many? He hasn't capped any of his geysers just yet. Obviously, the mineral-only base doesn't help him out there. But only now getting a ridge cap and obviously capping at 3 o'clock makes sense, but maybe doesn't have too much confidence in the rest of it yet. These sets of units were definitely revealing things. Zobrilisks are sighted. Vilgoricor is sighted. Only now is Arbuz going to spot these extra bases. That's another thing, of course, that we didn't really talk too much about. Obviously, I kept mentioning he has no idea about these bases, but the problem is that it's not just that he had no idea about the bases. It's that he had no idea about the bases for so damn long. And these hidden bases could have easily been stamped out by Arbuz's attack force. But that error has been capitalized upon by AOT. And now we're going to see very different Tier 2 options start to be leveraged. If those Zobrilisks can burrow and start killing the Zarks, maybe they might not even be necessary. You think about the Convolusks, you think about the Calcs. Ironically, Zarkaver is probably heavily countered by Vith now, but we will not be seeing that in this particular matchup. The Convolusks are going to spread out so much of their debuff And here come the mutas. The swarm of mutas. 44 of the things just coming in to try to erase what is before them. And no splash damage was afforded to Arbuz, Budesh's opponent. AOT has nothing to clear the skies. His own Gorgakors come out, but they are no good versus air units. No good versus stacks, swarms. He's killed 3 mutas. That's it. Doesn't matter how long the Vilgoricors stay alive. Doesn't matter how long the Ultracors and the Tetzoricors stay alive with their lifesteal. That is a wipe. That is a wrap. 200 military units for Arbuz Budesh. He is just about ready to finish this game off of the back of that fight. AOT going for some tricky plays, and you know, he outsmarted him. I can't believe he's dropping at this point. Yeah, sure, the mutas will sort of finish the job there. But outsmarting him with a lot. Not quite enough there at the end. Skits are going to try to make things happen. Yeah, the Nats will actually eat a lot of these up. The Lyras are here as well, trying to finish off those mutas in the back, but yeah, he wasn't mining with most of those guys anyway. I'm a little dizzy, guys. What a game. And Arbuz goes on to Tribunal Stage victory point off the back of this play. He's got units heading down to the bottom right. All those defenses are taken care of. GG. 23 minutes. And we're just getting started, it feels like. Can AOT bounce back, or will Arbuz punch his ticket to the Battleman stage off the back of this next game? Well, the Grand Final is delivering with some pretty nice matches. We like that. We dig that. Big fans. Big fan. Answering somebody's question on the Discord server real quick. And now we will get into our next match. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, ZVZ again. AOT in the top left is going to be our green Zerg. And Arbuz Vermilion Zerg, 6 pooling on Impulsion. I guess his opening is just 6 pool every game. This is his statement. If you play him in ZVZ, you will get 6 pooled. Once, twice, thrice? Thrice. Hope you guys have been enjoying the Grand Final so far. I certainly have been. It's been wonderful to see the strategies unfolding here. Arbuz making up for his 3 Protoss rolls versus Hanmano with 3 Zerg rolls versus AOT. They're now 1-1 in ZVZ and 0-1 in ZVP. Let's see if AOT can answer back here. Going for his usual 8 pool into Larvosk. Should be fairly defensible here. No worries, in my opinion. When you're thinking about the way that AOT likes to play, and you're thinking about the way that Arbuz likes to play, they are a little bit stylistically mismatched. Arbuz is... he can be tricky, cute, that kind of thing. He is a thinking man, you know? Like, his APM kind of tells you that. Not just in this very moment. AOT's obviously being pretty casual about this particular match, conserving some of his energy. But he does like to do those cheesy openers. Nebulon asking me why I'm in heaven. Go back to the beginning of the VOD. I explain it. I actually used to be even more heavenly. Now, we do have that second Larvos coming up here. Zets are just kind of skirmishing. This is obviously going to be won by AOT, so Arbuz just maybe throwing a little bit away there for free. And yeah, I mean, he hasn't really done anything with these 6 pulls. I don't know if it's just because he's like, maybe this is the game where AOT 6 pools or something. And then he's tries to win him Out 6 pool him. I don't know. I'm a little confused. With those Droleths coming out for AOT, he is going to have a nice worker lead, and of course he has a larva lead for a brief period of time here as well. Hydra's done pretty early on, and the Zets are diving forward. Doesn't seem like Arbuz was prepared for this. He ends up canceling out that Larvosk. That's a pretty big loss. Oh my god, if he loses this other one, this is a huge loss. He put it in the mineral line to defend it from stuff like that, and he still didn't drill on top of the Zets to decollide them. Humongous advantage for AOT now. Just like that, in a blink of an eye. And he's got the Hydra Sten halfway done. Guys, he's got his quads at the ramp. He's going to droll here. He knows he can be greedy. Because his enemy doesn't have a lot of military units and doesn't have a lot of larva. Macro hatch to try to come back into this. And Arbuz maybe thinking about moving across the map. But he just doesn't have that many forces, man. Bunch of quads coming in for insurance policy. I would have loved to see some larva saved so you can get some Hydras out or Izira cores if that's your play, but doesn't seem to matter. I feel like AOT can navigate to victory so many ways here. Let's find out. Arbuz might try to clutch up. But he's shown the door by the quads. Feels like his best bet here, actually, is to, like, bait with a couple of Zets out here and have everybody else charged up there. But yeah, as all those quads get sighted, he realizes no chance he can move up that way. Doesn't want to concede the game just yet, even though it might look a little dire. Shroud goes down. If AOT's in action, lack of moving across the map is anything to go by in some of the other games. Maybe Arbuz can get a late-stage comeback here. That is how Monocyte worked out. One Zeth pulling his whole Quaz army back. Exactly what the doctor ordered for Arbuz. Unforced error for sure. But exactly what you are happy to see if you're in the Vermilion shoes. Izira cores are out. I think you could easily move across the map here for AOT. He was already planning on doing so, and he's making a bunch of Zets to reinforce. Very hard-pressed to find a way for Arbuz to find victory here. He's going to try to go for Lake Is as the defensive move, but I think before his Shroud is even done, the Zets are going to be knocking on his doorstep, revealing up on the high ground. Yeah. Not looking good. Not just yet, anyway. But again, AOT's being pretty lackadaisical about it. He's not pressing the issue. He's going for the Teth Rush, even though he could just charge up the ramp and win right here and now. 3 Lakes are being made. It's about a, I want to say, 30-second timer before those things pop and get into position. So AOT going to be preparing his Izira cores. We'd love to see them a little bit further front. No, he's keeping them in the back. I don't know what he's doing, dude. He's being a bit silly by going for the Teths, in my opinion. Lakes are going to be popped soon. Hatchet for the expansion. Arbuz is definitely thinking AOT is expanding himself. That is not what is happening right now. Scouting for hidden bases with those 4 Zeths. We love to see them fan out like that, just to see what's going on. Gonna come in here and see the hatch. Well, he knows that the Lakes are there. Avaleth gets started up immediately. The 4 Teths are almost complete. He doesn't even know the Hydra Sten has been made, let alone that he's already up at Apex tier. Like, this is a ridiculous tech rush from AOT. And it might not matter that he's got Lakes, honestly. You're seeing the lifesteal right before your very eyes. Yeah. One of them will eventually go down, surely, but that's the only one that does. Yeah, that is a deadly move. GG, Arbuz has been tech rushed. We go to Game 5 in the Grand Finals. Heart of Turtle is not done yet. Beautiful. Exactly what we want. The rubber match. Maybe I am in heaven. You know what I mean? The rubber match is before your very eyes, and Art of Turtle is 6 pooling. He is the green Zerg in the bottom left of Quasar Quartet. Fate had other ideas for Arbuz. He is the lemon Protoss, channeling the energies of Nebelheim in the top left. So, will he be able to survive the 6 pool of AOT? I haven't seen a great amount of value gained from 6 pools in this matchup. I honestly do not know whether or not AOT is going to get demonstrably ahead from this. And the scribe is coming down very early on. They're going to scout each other's starting positions. The 6 pool will be forewarned, and at that point you just need a warden and you're good. He double scouted with the Droleth. I think he should pull that one back, but did he notice? Getting the scout off so early to see the pool and all of the eggs there, that's going to be pretty critical information. If he's hung around long enough to see the 4th egg, he would know for sure. But the warden gets started, and 35 seconds only to make that. I really don't think the Zets are going to be able to do much of anything. Hangs around to scout which unit it is. Honestly, the Zets can't mosey about and try to kill that worker. This is a very committed play from AOT. Double scout 6 pool means that he's got such little economy. You got like 3 less workers than you would typically have mining at this point. So, just pointing that out there. Second warden. Yeah, he can cancel that one. That's easy as hell. Scribe does get cleaned. Well, he's going to have to cancel that gateway at the very least. So he's keeping it a low military game here. Just one gateway being actually articulated at any point. And incomplete units like structures that are warping in don't benefit from the Ecclesiast passive. So even though there's that shield restore going on for the Ecclesiasts themselves. Oh, no cancel on that. 175 minerals down the drain there for Arbuz. That's pretty expensive. AOT just stacking up his larva, trying to see if he can catch back up in the military department. And he is going to dive onto the Ecclesiasts, but yeah. Feels a little cannoli-esque here, but not going to work out for him. Gateway already halfway complete. I don't really think that the Zets are going to be able to finish the job here. I think the Ecclesiast count is just too high, so it'll be a very damaged gateway, but a gateway nonetheless. It turns out being on fire doesn't actually stop you from warping in Zealots and stuff, so. Last of the Zets is cleared from the main base, and Arbuz can try and recover from this position. Maybe go for a faster expansion if he so desires. A Hydra's Den already on the way. Need that second Larvosk, but he spent the gas on the Hydrath Den, so definitely feeling like he needs the Zethar cores or something to, or, you know. Oh, it's... No, I was going to say that doesn't make any sense. He's on the precipice of getting enough gas for a second Larvosk, and he clearly needs more larva, so he will. Hope there's no nerves at this point for AOT. I mean, he's been playing for so long, I feel like there's no way. Quads are hatching. Is this enough to deal with the Zealots? He needs to go after those Ecclesiasts in the back line. Wisely, Arbuz ends up pulling back. Not enough meat on the front line there, particularly with the slowed second gateway and the fact that the Nexus was his next acquisition. It's not like he has much going on there on the military side. It's so weird that 4 out of 5 games have featured a 6 pool. It's so wild. And this last one was by the guy who didn't 6 pool the other times. Fate really did have other ideas. Zero cores of all things being made right now is a little bit puzzling. I guess in enough number they can kill the Ecclesiasts, but I really think you need Hydras to deal with all of those Zealots. You get enough of them and they can chew through. Let's see how it goes. Gonna attempt to see what they can do here. Yeah, the Zealots are staying alive for so damn long. And you can thank a lot of the Ecclesiasts for that. Now, the pathing didn't really help Arbuz much, but I guess on the flip side, the Zero cores themselves don't really die very frequently, very fast, so there's something there maybe. Zero core heavy play just seems so puzzling. And he could have so many more Hydras. Obviously, doesn't have the gas exactly to spend a lot of larva on the Hydralisk. So that is a consideration. No expansion just yet from AOT. And an Ardent Authority already warping in here for Arbuz. I feel like he actually has pretty much drawn 50-50 for his Protoss and Zerg at the end of the day. Now the Ecclesiasts are going to start to fall away here from those. Oh, maybe not. The Zealots actually staying alive. This is pretty dire all of a sudden for AOT. He keeps them interested long enough for the Zets to show up, but that's not going to do any damage at all. And Zealot Ecclesiast, this is how Arbuz got onto the scene and established himself as a solid Protoss player. AOT playing right into his hands with Izira cores that need to be frontal force in order to do damage. The Ecclesiasts keeping him alive. The Cantor on the way. We have some Hydras finally. Was thinking about that expansion, but is not going to be able to afford it now. Unitary Union has begun. There's the expansion for AOT coming up now. A single Ecclesia is trying to spy on it, apparently. Not quite sure what he was doing there. Such a late expo and such a dire worker situation here with Arbuz so far ahead. Got his Cantor ready. Gonna try to dive right in and maybe pick that a Cantor. I just don't see it quite happening. He is gonna kill that unit, but look at all the rest of the army here. The Hierophant empowering them with extra attack speed. The Hydras need to fall back immediately. One Izira core will be gutted. Got more Zeth Hydra here. Base number 3 coming up for Arbuz. Second a Cantor has arrived. It is the bane of all Zerg who live. A friend to all Zerg who die. This does not feel like AOT's chance to make it into the battlement stage, skipping up on all of the qualifiers. He will concede. GG well played, and Arbuz takes the game. And game 5. That means he is qualified alongside names like Neblime and Newt. He is the greatest A player, at least in this particular game. Do we have another A player? Might be a small pool of players to pick from. His Protoss didn't lose a single match in this tournament. His Zerg, however, did drop 2 games to AOT. Impressive stuff. I do think AOT has an outside chance of making it through in the next tribunal, our last tribunal of this circuit. But it also depends on whether or not we see Shopkeeper Dog, or maybe Dog lived renewed, rejuvenated as a Scozy. Who knows who might end up coming through and doing some big swinging. But Arbuz, our first selective random player to qualify, has done so. GG's, and well played to him. Our non-tournament coverage will resume soon. Thanks for joining us for this wonderful time of Cosmonarchy. And remember, if you want to help support the project, you can donate via Ko-fi, coffee.com/Pronogo and Veek7. You can also donate via Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/Pronogo for a 2v2 tournament and other exciting competitions. GG. Lads, that does it for our stream. It was a wonderful time. I am glad to have gotten a 5-game set out of the very end. A very competitive final score. I dig it. I dig it very nicely. Looking forward to seeing what comes next for these homies. But that is a completed tournament indeed. And I look forward to seeing as well the weekend wage we got this weekend. Sign up for that on the Discord server while you can. And, oh yeah, and also keep in mind as well that we do have a 3 Crow Throwdown tournament in the Brotherhood game mode. coming up on the 14th. Or no, the 21st, excuse me. The 14th is this weekend. So, I will see you guys for those tournaments very soon. GG.